Thank you, Jamie. Good evening, everyone. I wanted to first mention that our mayor right now is actually running a few minutes late. She has she had another meeting to go to, so she's going to be joining us later on in the evening. But let me start with the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would also like to ask for the members of the board and the community to give us a minute of silence. We actually lost someone very special for our community early this week. If no one went to shop at some point of time in their lives on Main Street to Bob Army Navy store, you didn't get the chance to actually meet a fabulous person, Neil Wolf. We actually passed away this week. Please choose a moment of silence under his name, please. Thank you. I believe there's going to be maybe Chief may know someone in the staff. For what I've been seeing in one of the emails that went back to us, they're going to be doing something tomorrow around 12:15 p.m. They're going to be doing a drive-by in memory of Neil. It's going to be on Main Street. I don't have all the details, but as soon as if someone else has a list of information, that'd be great for them to share now. I don't know, Chief, maybe you know?
I don't.
No? Okay. As soon as we get more information, we'll share with the public of his name here. I think Martha, throw it to you.
Okay. Let's see. Trustee Fritchie?
Present.
Trustee White?
Present.
Trustee Lopez?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Quesada?
Present.
Okay, and then we're opening up at the public hearings. The first one being proposed comprehensive plan and zoning text amendments, which is a follow-up from the one from the special meeting last week.
Thank you, Martha.
Patty, Trustee Quezada, the thought was, because the mayor is not here yet, that what we would do is we would flip the two public hearings. We would do, if it's okay with the board, the public hearing to amend the zoning map with regard to Sherman first. And then that should afford the mayor sufficient time to get back and we can go to the comprehensive plan, but it's obviously the board's pleasure, whichever way you wish to do it.
That'll be okay. I'm okay with that. I'm not sure if the rest of the board members are okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine with that.
Martha, can we lead off with that one then, please?
Okay, so public hearing in the matter of amending the zoning map for property located at 2 Sherman Place, section block and lot 89.16-3-88.1 from the current S75 zoning district to the NC2 zoning district.
Folks, I know that Planning Director Martinez is on. Just a brief overview. This is a request by the property owner at 2 Sherman Place for a map change, basically to put that property into the NC2, which is the neighborhood central zone, which is really along Croton Avenue at that point. It is currently in the S75 single family zone. So many of you probably know that's the old trolley barn building that we're talking about. The applicant, the board referred this to the zoning board. The zoning board came back to the Board of Trustees with a recommendation to approve the map change with regard again to this one particular property where there are currently 3 businesses located, 3 businesses operated by the applicant here. I am aware that we received, I believe the board received 2 letters from property owners in the area, which are in the record and which will be placed into the minutes. One from Josephine Basile Peely and the other from Connie Shook. There was also a responsive letter back from Jose Cato, who is the attorney for the applicant. I don't know if if any of the folks are online and have anything to say, because it is a public hearing, but I just wanted to sort of give that prelim to that.
Thank you, Stuart. Just for some reason, it was the zoning board or the planning board?
I apologize. It went to the planning board.
Okay.
Planning board recommendation.
Okay.
My mistake. And that was by letter back to this board dated February 23 of 2021.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that clarification, Stuart. Yeah, if there's any member on the public that would like to speak, I see someone raising their hands. If Jamie can bring
Yes,
them-
I didn't know if you wanted me to bring over. So first we have, and I apologize in advance if I pronounce the name wrong, Avis Sri Jayantha. If you can introduce yourself when you come on and give us your relationship to the Village of Ossining, I'm going to bring you over now.
Just a quick question, Stuart, how long do they have to speak for the public hearing?
4 minutes, please.
4 minutes only once, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll do the timing of that as well once you've done your introduction.
Thank you, Jamie.
No problem. Okay, you've been brought over. Just unmute yourself, please.
Hello, my name is Avis Srijantha. You did a marvelous job on that, Martha. I want to congratulate you. I live at 32 Sherwood Avenue, and I was involved in an effort about 10-15 years ago to build a 7-story building on this property. I'm a little bit unclear whether 2 Sherman means the building that's there now, or it involves the empty lot that's adjacent to the building, in between the building and the park. Does anybody know the
Yes,
answer?
ma'am. I'm happy to answer you. It is just the building. It is not the empty lot.
Okay, then my objection is not so strong. I know that the empty lot is also zoned for single family, and I don't have any objection to the building, to the business, the existing business rezoning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I am going to bring you back over. Okay, the next person is Susan. I'm going to bring you over. If you can introduce yourself and please give us your relationship to the Village of Ossining. Thank you. Susan, you just need to unmute yourself.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Susan, my address is 22 Park Avenue, so I'm just across from the northern part of Arthur Jones Park. I think, as well as Avis, I'm more concerned about the empty part of the building lot, but I would really want more information about what the plans are for the trolley building. And it's like there's issues specifically on Croton Avenue where things have gone in that are well, I'll be frank, ugly and cheap. And this is our neighborhood. I think a lot of people who live here really cherish the quality of the neighborhood as it is. We don't want to see anything too high there. We don't want to see anything that's made of really poor quality materials, like I think the Prescription Plus building is. And the, you know, just the information of the goals of the plans of what's going in there.
Yeah, can I'm actually Carlos. I'm Susan's husband. I'm with her. And one thing that I've noticed about Sherman Place, that used to be a trolley car place where they would house the trolleys. It became more like a parking spot, the inside of the building, but the inside of the building is now reconverted. And there are all the cars that used to park there, plus tons of the employee cars from that business. They're parking all the way They're using the entire Sherman Place area, which includes Arthur Jones Park. And we're very concerned that they're really spreading way too far from where they should be.
So as to add to that, whatever goes in there in place of the trolley building, we're quite concerned about the parking that would be involved if whatever goes in there, if the parking would be included in that lot, or the the neighbors around are expected to deal with the effects of all those cars parking on our streets, which I think is dangerous. But anyway, those are my concerns and my husband's concerns.
Right. We really have we live very close to the place, and we really love the park. The park is like the heart of our neighborhood, and it's a great neighborhood. And we're concerned because right now we have a lot of trucks parked on Sherman Place, way beyond where that place is located. And also the amount of traffic has increased. In the morning, you end up, you wake up to birds a few years ago, now you wake up to big trucks.
Stuart, if I may, and then you can fill in the blanks, please.
Please, because I do, and trustees, if I may, I believe that the attorney for the applicant may be one of the people waiting to talk, so he may have
Okay.
some of the answers as well.
Great.
But
That'll be helpful. Yes. And just for a clarification, Susan, thank you for your concerns. We're not going to go back and forth, but just as a point of clarification, they actually, my understanding as it stands right now, there are not any plans to develop or redevelop this lot. They're actually reusing the building for the existing businesses that the owner has. I believe, Stuart, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they have 3 or 4 businesses. That
three,
owns,
trustee Quezada.
three, thank you, Stuart. 3 businesses that he owns. They different businesses, they kind of interlock with each other, but they are running on that building. So the plans are pretty much just to keep that building as it is now and not to make any modifications. And Stuart, if I miss anything, please fill
So
No,
what
that's
is
correct.
the point of the zoning change?
If I
Go
may,
ahead, sir.
Susan,
Yes,
I
please.
just want to go back and forth, but I'll say it briefly. The point of the zoning change is that within the NC2 zone, which is immediately adjacent to where this building is now, the uses that they are doing for the office uses are all permitted uses. In the S75 zone, where you are located, where this building is, those are not permitted uses. And because the gentleman has 3 different types of offices that are there, he would need to obtain, a use variance to be allowed to continue to operate those businesses. So that's why the change is being sought.
So that changes exactly what Avis and we are concerned about. So what is going to happen? That S75 zone is part of our neighborhood. It should stay within the character of the neighborhood. So what exactly is the intent if S75 is going to just change to NC2? Then that's a huge concern, I think, for
Thank you,
If I may,
No,
May,
yeah,
can I
okay,
jump?
no, stop. I believe it's more than 4 minutes. This is a public hearing. Thank
I
you,
had
Susan.
stopped it. I
Yeah.
had stopped the count when the board
Okay.
was speaking. So when the board speaks, we don't normally count that as
Okay.
part of their 4 minutes.
No problem.
Okay.
How many more minutes left is that?
There's actually 59 seconds left.
All right, before 59 seconds start, I had a conversation with the planner today. I believe the history of this building, it was originally zoned as the
Business
NC,
district.
the business district years ago. And it got changed to an S75. And now they're just trying to change it back because of, it's non-conforming. And for them to get a use variance to basically use the building as they are right now, it's just pretty much unattainable. So this is basically, it's actually going back to what it originally was years ago.
Thank you, Trustee Fritchie. Thank you, Susan. Please, there's somebody else on the Q&A portion, Jamie, if you can
Yes,
bring
there
them in,
is. Give me just a moment. I'm going to.
Just
Oh,
one second. Miss Susan, what's your last name? I didn't catch that.
It's Askew, ASKEW dash Torres, TORRES.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
okay. The next person is going to speak is named Sylvester. I'm going to bring you over if you can tell us your first or last name and your relationship to the Village of Ossining. Thank you. Sylvester, you've been brought over?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I was just, before I begin, is the mayor going to be coming? Because I really wanted to address all the trustees and the mayor.
Yes, she'll be here later today, hopefully before 8 o'clock. So yes, we're expecting her to be here shortly.
Okay, so should I go ahead and say what I want to say, or?
Oh, there's the mayor's here now.
Oh,
She's
good.
going to take over, but this is a public hearing. Are you referring to the 2 items that are on the agenda, or is there something additional?
I was it was 8B on your agenda. It's about the village seal survey.
Okay, so I think right now we're in a public meeting, the public hearing portion. So do you mind if you wait until we call in for the parts of the agenda that the public can speak on it? Is that okay?
Okay, is that at the end of the meeting then?
No, that will be after. Let me take a look at the agenda. Apologize for that. It should be right after.
It will be
this.
right after
It's right after
organizational
this.
announcements. Yeah.
Correct. Thank you,
Okay,
Martha. Yes.
okay, okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabata. Mayor, meeting's all yours.
I just dropped in, so,
Hi, Mayor. I just want to let you know we still have one person that wants to speak on the public hearing.
okay,
Is everyone comfortable with me bringing Christine Eidman over?
yes, please.
Okay. Ms. Eidman, if you could please unmute and give us your relationship to the Village of Ossining, please.
Hi, yes, it's Christine Idem, E-I-D-E-M, Idem. I also live in the neighborhood adjacent to the park on Marshall Place. And I just want to reiterate the concern about the parking that's happening on Sherman Place and overnight parking of trucks that are there. I've seen actually trucks parking with people sleeping overnight in their vehicles, and the use of the park. It's been a draw for people that aren't just in our neighborhood, which, you know, we came together as a community to build this in memory of our neighbor, Arthur Jones. People are coming from all over for that park. And I think if the business is using the street to park their vehicles on, it causes a danger to the families with the little kids coming to use the park. It doesn't give them a place to park their vehicle for the use. So the increase in traffic, I noticed the stop sign on Park Avenue coming up the hill towards the park. People blow through that without stopping if they're going on to Sherman Place. That's a concern. And I'm also wondering if there's any historic value to the trolley building itself, and if that is something that had been looked at or possibly maybe would be preserved as something of our history. Thank you.
Thank you. Am I on?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you. I just went from one meeting to another. First of all, thank you for that input and feedback. This is, as I assume was said in the beginning of the meeting, an opportunity to hear the public. We don't generally respond or answer because this is not a Q&A or a town hall, but rather an opportunity to hear people, and that's literally hear them. Without judgment, without cause, but you did ask some questions. So the historic piece, we can have a historian look at it, and Trustee White was the historian previous to her role. I don't know what the process is when people want. So this is, I think, more for clarity, not really a response or not response. But Dana, would you share with us if a community member would like to check into the historical relevance of something, how might they go about doing something with that?
Well, the trolley barn was built probably around 1900. And I think it has historical significance. It's not landmarked in any way. It doesn't have protections in that regard. If you're interested, I'm hoping that the owner has no plans to replace that building. From what I understand, this rezoning affects only 2 Sherman Place, not the grassy lot, which is a separate owner, not the playground in any way. From what I understand, it really doesn't change anything except the zoning for that property. And as for so I think that there's a lot of great pictures. I have a lot of great pictures of the trolley barn from its heyday. Then after the trolley went out of business, it became a bus storage facility. It was, I think, empty for a long time. I'm personally glad to see it being used, adaptively reused as office space. Regarding the parking, I don't think the rezoning is going to change that situation. You're still, that sounds like something to discuss with the owners. I don't know. But that is a business. It actually was, I think, part of the business district right adjacent to it until it was rezoned, I believe, so that they could build an apartment building there, which didn't happen. So I think Jaime can correct me. We're actually going back to what it was pre-1992. Jaime, am I right?
That's correct.
So regarding, I think I would love to see, in fact, we have Adam Markovich, the chair of the Historical Preservation Commission on right now with us. And I'm sure Adam would love to investigate possibly landmarking and protecting that building as well. The owner usually helps if the owner signs on to that effort. So it's something we can discuss with them.
Yeah, let's be clear. You would need the owner to get somewhat involved with that.
Mayor, if I may,
Mm-hmm.
just on a historical part of it, when it was the bus barn, and this was when it was a bus barn, Liberty Lines owned it. And the building that has been torn down, that's the empty lot, was the old GPL facility. And the lot between GPL facility and the fence of what was the baseball field there, they parked diesel buses there for years in that lot. Now, this is a long time ago, but that's what was there. So, and I guess that's back when it was zoned as the NC zone. So, I'm with Trustee White. I'd like to see it at least get looked into to preserve it. It is a historic building. It's had a couple of major fires in it and been restored. So, I honestly don't think it's going to change any aspects to it. I believe that if this guy wanted to re-stucco the building, I mean, that would have to be something that, if the historical preservation committee steps in and landmarks this, then I believe, Dana, if I'm correct, that building has to stay like it is, correct?
Yeah, the HPC would have to sign off on any changes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying. So just a little history there. That's all. That's all. I'm just.
So I think one of the things that we learn is when people buy houses, they look at the house, they look a little bit around, they see a nice grassy fenced-in area, but the reality is that it was already something that was different than what it is today. It happens to be empty because people, while they had the right to build on it, didn't. The call to action that I would suggest, number one, there's a bunch of things that you said, and a couple of you said I came in late on the first person. When people are sleeping in cars and vans, or there are trucks parked and they may not be parked legally, you should be calling the police, and you should be calling them often and lots of times. Every time you see something in your neighborhood that you think is illegal, we have a police department, and you should call them, and they will come out, and they will have conversation. Also, if it's related to the owner, they'll have a conversation with the owner. Our experience around here is that generally when people who are neighbors speak to a business, most businesses listen to the neighbors, and most businesses listen to the police department if they're doing something consistently wrong. If it's individuals not related to the business, clearly that business can't do anything about it. That's a call to the police because something's going on there that maybe shouldn't go on there. As for the park, again, if things are going on, you should call. But I do want to say, just from a point of clarification, and again, not a commentary on anything that you said that I'm judging or anything. It's just that once a park is public, it's actually public. There is no park that belongs to any one group of any people in the community. It belongs to the entire community. Anybody can go to any park within the hours that you're allowed to go, as long as they behave themselves appropriately. There are no private parks. Even ones that are named for someone don't belong to anybody that I'm aware of. If there's an exception, I think our attorney is going to say, there might be exceptions. So I just want the public to understand that the parks belong to everyone at all the appropriate times. So that's just, I think, from a point of clarification. We have some parks that, and by the way, I drove by there when this came on, and everybody on this board actually is familiar, because many of us, when we get questions like this, I drove by there, I hung out there, I had a cup of coffee in my car just to watch what was going on. It's a very cute little triangular, very pretty little spot to be there, but it belongs to everybody. I just wanted to make that clear, because people oftentimes say, well, it's our park. It doesn't actually work that way. It is a lovely spot, though, I have to say, because I really enjoyed it. It was happened to be a nice day, and I can see the attachment and the beauty of it. Are there anybody else? I see a hand, but I can't figure out where it's coming from.
Actually, the hand that's up, Mayor, already spoke. And there was a discussion at the beginning that if it has related to this, I believe, Stuart, you can speak to this, but since once the public hearing closes, can they join at the end of the meeting if they don't have something to speak on? You're on mute.
You're on mute.
They could also, it will come back before the board as a, as a resolution, and probably in a couple of weeks, and they can talk at that time. So, that, but they're all, and they're always free to, address the board on any issue of general interest.
Yeah.
Okay. So for now, Susan, I'm going to lower your hand.
That's like that at every one of the legislative sessions. Anybody from the public can come speak at the end point about any topic, actually, and you can send emails, and some people have sent regarding this particular issue to bot@villageofossining.org. But I just want to take a minute here to thank everybody for their patience. I had a Zoom call, and tomorrow is Holocaust Memorial Day. Hebrew translation is Shoah. My synagogue on Pleasantville Road had a service tonight. It also coincidentally happens to be the 1 year mark for my dad's death. He died last year. And so I had the honor of lighting one of the 7 candles. And so I took the beginning part. I think they're still going. They're supposed to end at 8. So I appreciate everybody's patience. For those of you who have families or the children of Holocaust survivors, such as I am, tomorrow is a very important Memorial Day for people. It's also a Memorial Day not only for people who are Jewish, it also is for the hundreds of thousands of Christians who saved Jewish lives. I know last year a community member happens to live in Briarcliff wrote to me that she only recently, through one of these genealogy sites, discovered she's actually Jewish. She was actually saved by nuns and then by a Christian family, and ended up in New York, and did not know until she's about 10 years older than I am. Didn't know that I'm sorry, she's older than that. I'm getting the dates wrong, but that she is actually was Jewish, and she survived because nuns saved her life, and then Christians in this country, and grew up actually in Pennsylvania as a devout Christian, and now is going through a whole different thing. So it's a very interesting episode for many people, not just Jewish people, but certainly with 6 million being killed, that's the most prominent number. So I thank everybody for the patience. I'm sorry I missed the beginning of the meeting. I don't often miss the meetings because I actually enjoy these meetings very much. And we are, I am assuming, on to mayors and trustees announcements at this point, unless the order was changed.
No, Mayor, what we actually did, we flipped the 2 public hearings. And if there's no one else waiting for this one, I would request a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Need a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, folks. Martha, we now have the second public hearing, or the continuation of the other one.
Oh, I see. You went from
Yeah.
one to, I see you flipped it. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so for second public hearing, it's the proposed comprehensive plan and zoning text amendments from last week's special session public hearing.
I'm not seeing hands.
Mayor, we do have Frank Fish, Simon Cates here they had just a very brief presentation to sort of respond to some of the matters that were raised at the last public hearing.
Okay.
Mayor, this is only 7 slides. And I don't know if you would like to do the first slide or you'd like me to go ahead.
No, just go ahead, because
Okay,
I
yeah.
didn't see this in advance. If it was
No,
sent
no.
to me, I didn't look at it, so.
No problem. For tonight's, this is just a continuation of the public hearing. And we just are repeating here on the slide what you said at the introduction to the hearing last week. That is, if people want to speak, they raise their hand on the Zoom function to speak, or they could type a comment in on the Q&A. And as with the previous public hearing, which has already been announced, you've asked people to stay within 4 minutes for their comments. The reason for this is on the 3rd line down here, we thought it might be good to do some clarifications on the public Q&A from the first public hearing. There was some Q&A on zoning that people were not clear on. So what these following slides are about is simply some of the zoning proposals to further clarify them a little bit. And then if the final point here is that if members of the public also want to submit written comments, they can submit them to the Board of Trustees. And you had set a target of April 12th in the past, so at plan at villageofossining.org. So what this evening, very briefly, we hope to just do this in 3 or 4 minutes now, is just to mention that there are 3 zoning code updates that are proposed. The first listed here is just a form-based overlay district for downtown, and then one for Croton Avenue. And then there's some minor modifications to the T district, and there's some minor modifications to the S75. We thought we'd just spend a minute on each of those so that we can.
Frank, again, please say the words out so that those who are hearing it knew what T stands for, what S75 stands for.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The T zone stands for the 2-family zone, and then the S75, S stands for single family. The 75 for the minimum lot size in that district, which is 7,500 square feet. So those are the 2 zones. They both exist now. So just a few words on the form-based overlay districts. You can see here where they are on the map. I mean, the downtown overlay it overlays the existing village center district in purple there that you can see. And then the second one is the Croton overlay district, which overlays existing zoning on Croton Avenue. And they're called an overlay zone because the owners here have the right to remain with the existing zoning, or they can opt in if they wish the overlay zone. And you can see the objectives of the 2 zones: position downtown, changing real estate market. What that means really is partly owners are affected by Amazon and other internet shopping, so it affects retail viability. Ensure that downtown, what comes in here fits in. The purpose of the form-based is to make sure the architecture fits into the historic character of downtown Ossining. And then provide resources to increase the public realm, and I'll get to that in a minute, and then improve walkability. And there's a couple of issues to do that. So the next slide just shows what these two zones are compared to the existing zoning. So on the left of this, you have the Village Center District. It exists now. If people wanted to stay in it, they're willing to, it's their option. They don't have to go into the overlay district. It's an optional overlay district. But if they do, you can see the difference. Currently, it's 4 stories, 48 feet. The overlay district would give a 5th story at 58 feet. And there's some conditions on that, which I'll get to in a minute. And then residential uses are really a conditional use downtown right now. And the proposal in the overlay district is to make them a permitted use. And what's behind that is that residential has a fairly strong market. Office and retail are not quite as strong in today's marketplace, as I think most people understand because of the internet. And then the neighborhood center overlay on Croton Avenue, neighborhood center zoning, you can see there, residential is a conditional use, and it's not allowed on the ground floor. What we're doing is allowing residential as permitted use and also allowing it on the ground floor. And I think it was our view and our economist's view that the Croton district, it should allow both retail and residential, that there's not a strong enough retail market to fill all of the business areas. These, by the way, would just the downtown overlay. It does commute, if you go to the 5th story, you would have to pay into a community benefit fund, which is aimed at providing streetscape improvements or other improvements aimed at the downtown area or things like the school district. So that's the overlay, and the objectives of the overlay really is to encourage infill development on a few vacant sites. There's not many, but there's a few vacant sites, and to enhance the historic character of downtown Ossining. So the form-based, the words of the form-based simply mean that it's more concerned with the design, the architectural quality, historic preservation, than it is with exact definitions or differences in uses. It's more flexible on uses. But the key thing here is they do not supersede the Historic Preservation Commission approvals, so that all of those remain in place. They don't supersede any approvals either by the planning board, so that those remain in place also. And then one of the objectives was walkability. If you enter into the form-based overlay, you're going to have to set back from the curb a minimum of 15 feet to build the building. Right now, some sidewalks vary. Some are 9 feet wide, some are 10, some are 12. Very few are 15. There are some. But this would uniformly, if you came into the overlay district, make sure you had to set back 15 feet from the curb. And then that 5th story would have to set back, in addition to that, on the 5th story, it would have to set back 8 feet from the front of the building. So if the 4th story is, say, 15 feet back, you'd have to set back that fifth level another 8 feet back. The other change in this that the trustees made is that this density bonus would be granted only by special permit to the Village Board of Trustees. So the extra 1-story bonus also would not be granted, could not be granted, if it would result in any demolition of a contributing building in the downtown Ossining Historic District. So we're very sensitive to preserving that. Trustees have been sensitive to that. This has sort of somewhat minimal results because in our search of downtown, what we call a soft site investigation, there's 3, 4 sites or so that, you know, they're vacant, they could be developed. That incremental 5th story might, on a certain building, say, generate 5 or 6 units. We're projecting over the next 10 years, this could amount to a 15 to 20 unit additional units in downtown. So it's not a huge change, but it's a change that was done because you have 5-story buildings downtown now to try to make sure that that 5th story fits in and sets back. So that's the idea of those setbacks. The residential allowed on upper floors is going to be a permitted use. We feel that's the highest and best market use for the upper floors. There were some comments on residential on the ground floor. I think that this is perhaps our fault that we weren't as clear as we could have been in the presentation we made at the beginning of the public hearing. The ground floor residential, someone was worried we were going to allow ground floor residential on Main Street. No, that's not the case. Under this overlay, you must retain the retail and business uses on, you can see them listed here, Main Street, Central Avenue, Highland Avenue, Spring Street, Academy Place. We are granting some flexibility on it on some of the streets that we did not perceive in our walkthrough with the trustees and others in our committee to be quite as strong for retail. And the last thing we want to do is to mandate something when there's not a market for it and you create vacancies on the ground floor. So we just wanted to be clear on that. The 2 photos, I think, show this a little bit. Main Street will require retail businesses to be maintained. But for instance, here you see a photo of really Brandreth Street. And as you walk down the street, I think anybody just walking by would notice there's houses there. It's not a street that is really a commercial street. And so that's a street that retail and commercial would not be required on. So that's the difference in the form-based code there. And then Croton Avenue, here, again, it's just to encourage infill development on vacant sites, create a more walkable environment also on Croton Avenue. There's no density increases at all in this. The current building height of 3 stories would remain the same. The only difference here again is residential. It's currently allowed on the upper floors by conditional use. Proposed change would simply allow it as a permitted use. And then it's not currently permitted on the ground floor in the NC, the underlying NC2 district. The proposed change would allow it as a use. Again, because we believe there's not a market for retail on the whole Croton Avenue corridor. And if you required it, quite frankly, you're going to end up with quite a few vacancies. So that's the idea there. And then the next.
Frank, if I could just add 2 quick points here.
Yes, Simon, go ahead.
Look at the photo here on the right, just to highlight a couple of things that Frank has said. You see some examples here where, you've got a home on the left side of the street that would be in the Croton Avenue overlay district. And it wouldn't make sense to require commercial or retail on a site like that. You have other buildings like the one on the right that does have retail or commercial on the ground floor. And the sense of the code here is just to be flexible, to recognize that it's a mixed use corridor and to allow both of those examples. And the other thing that we don't see on the slide here, but Frank said it on an earlier slide, you see the building on the right. We felt like in our walkthrough that this is a little bit too close to the curb, and that 15-foot setback from the curb also makes sense here to enforce a wider sidewalk to help increase the walkability along Croton Avenue.
Great, thanks, Simon. Yeah, that 15 feet, by the way, was pointed out to us by a couple of trustees on our walking site visit of Croton Avenue. So I think the next are just in this final slide. It just goes over the 2-family zone, and what the change in the 2-family zone is to allow 2-family units to be a permitted use. They're currently allowed as a conditional use in the zone. So all this does is I'm glad the mayor reminded me to say what this T zone stands for. It's a 2-family zone. What you're used to in zoning, if you're in something that says a 2-family zone, you're used to having the 2-family be a permitted use, and that's what's being proposed by the trustees here. And then the other change is to try to make sure that we can get parking in the backyard as an option. And so we've got side yards, which we're suggesting be a minimum of 8 feet on one side and 20 feet combined. What that does, the current regulation is 12 feet on one side and 28 feet combined. Those are bigger side yard requirements than you need. To get a driveway in, you only need the 10 feet on one side. So we've got the 8 foot and the 20 feet combined, that gives us 12 feet on one side. So we're trying to make this, the idea of this is to make it a little bit easier on some sites for the owners to not have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals all the time, to simply improve a current legal unit that they might have. This is really about code compliant properties and to make life for the owner just a little bit easier so they can improve their property. And also though, have a good enough standard where they can get parking in the back. We're not changing anything else. The trustees are not changing anything else. No parking would be allowed in the front, and no density increases are proposed in the two-family district, the T district, and no multifamily is proposed in the T district. As the planner and attorney here, Jaime Martinez and Stuart reminded me this morning that your definition of multifamily is 3 units and above in Ossining, in the village. So no multifamily is proposed here in the 2-family zone, and there is no density increase. So there's no changes to any other area, bulk requirements. Everything else remains the same. And this is the other thing to say here. And Jaime, I don't know if you want to add anything here. But
yeah, so it is really important. We have gotten a lot of feedback and the concern from the community that's been expressed in the comments so far has been, profound about issues of illegal apartments, illegal units. And so it really is important to emphasize that there's nothing in the code changes that would allow for a greater increase in density. And more importantly, the minimum standards for new apartments in the T zone are at the low end. It has to have at least 800 square feet. There has to be parking provided on site. You cannot exceed any of the existing bulk requirements, like 30% coverage of the building footprint and 40% coverage of impervious surface. And so a lot of what I think people have expressed concern about are properties where, individuals and bad actors have put in units illegally that are undersized, substandard, don't provide any parking on site, and have generally sort of flouted any laws and responsibilities to the code. This change doesn't help them at all. This is only for properties that are going to follow the code to the letter and that would meet all of the requirements.
And I think, Mayor, with that, we're finished, and we'll, at this point, like to turn it back to you for the public hearing part.
Sorry, Frank, we have one more slide. On the
Oh, okay. Sorry.
On the S75 here.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. The S75 is actually almost identical to the 2-family zone. We're suggesting that the reduction of the side yard from the 12 feet on one side and 28 feet combined to 8 feet on one side and 20 feet combined. And again, the purpose of this is to try to make it easier for owners of existing single-family homes to make improvements to their code compliant properties, that they not be caught up in having to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals so often. And so again, I want to be very clear on this one. There's no density increase proposed in the single family 75 district. There's no multifamily proposed. The only change here being proposed is a side yard change. So that's it for the single family 75 district. So with that, Mayor, I can turn it back to you.
Thank you. So we are looking to see if people have comments, questions. You excuse me, it's not so much questions, but comments, opinions, recommendations, suggestions, points of view that they would like to share with the Board of Trustees, because we will be making some decisions regarding all of these recommendations that have been made. And I'm doing a little bit of a tap dance to see if I see any hands as I'm talking. Or you can go into the Q&A, into the chat, into the Q&A, and I'd be happy to read it if you would like me to. I'm not seeing any. Anybody else seeing any? Maddie? Jamie? Okay, I'm
No
not
one.
seeing any.
Mayor, if
Okay.
I may ask a question to staff?
Yep.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
I guess either to Jaime or Stuart, I know the planning board had a meeting in regards to the comp plan itself, but 2 weeks ago, I want to say. Do you guys, are they going to be having additional conversations in regards to that? And if they're not, when will we expect their feedback, I guess, on this?
Jaime and I are going to be working on the first draft of the letter from the planning board. We did get their directives. I would hope to have something back first with Jaime and myself, get it to the planning board. I would think within a week to 10 days at the most, you folks will have their comments with regard to it, both the comprehensive plan and with regard to the text amendments. So we'll have it for both to both of you on that.
So let me ask you this, and I'm sure we talked about this before, just refresh my memory. We do have all the land use boards on here. Is there an opportunity for them as well to say, have some feedback in regards to this as a board, or they can do it as an individual, if anything?
It's Deputy Mayor, it's probably more appropriate individually. The reason it went to the planning board is that's what is required by law and by our code. If members, I can tell you this, that on the EAC, Kate Schlott has attended every one of the meetings. We discussed it, in fact, last night at the EAC meeting. There has been some discussion at a couple of the HPC meetings. I'm not as familiar in terms of ZBA, but if members of those boards want to provide an opinion with regard to any of the elements, either as to the zoning text changes or the comprehensive plan, or for that matter, the DGEIS, they certainly can. One of the thoughts was that even if the public hearing is closed tonight, the comment period, would be kept open at least for a little period longer, if and however long the board thinks it is appropriate to get whatever additional comments should come in.
Thank you, Stuart.
Sure.
Okay, I'm still seeing no hands. And I think what I'm hearing, Stuart, is that we should also decide if we're keeping the public hearing open longer than tonight.
You would, it could either be, it would be a motion either to close the public hearing, but keep the public comment period open to a date certain set by the board, or the board could decide to keep the public hearing open with having no one tonight. I'm not sure if there is any more, but that's a decision to be made by the board. But you would have to decide either way as to which way you wanted to go with that.
My question is, if we keep it open for another week, next week's a work session, correct?
Right.
So if we move to have it go to, this would go to a vote resolution, what would this be?
In terms of the next step, or in terms
Yeah,
of,
so if we decide to close it tonight, we'd have a next step that would go to a resolution for us to vote or in favor of what's in front of us.
well, actually, what the plan would be, and Frank and Jaime and Simon, Sylvia, chime in if I'm saying it wrong here. Ultimately, the plan is that BFJ would come back to the board. Actually, I believe it's at next week's meeting, next work session, to discuss what was heard here. They would hear from you, and there would be an interplay back and forth. And then the plan would be they would work on, revisions, changes, and then ultimately, Trustee Fritchie, it would come back to this board to vote on the comprehensive plan, the DGEIS. There would be a finding statement prepared, and obviously the text amendments to the zoning code. That is not a resolution that's coming before you within the next 2 weeks. Those resolutions will require, consultation with staff, with consultants, and with this board. So the immediate question now is whether or not the hearing remains open or whether it gets closed to give some period of time for additional public comment. Because right now it's scheduled that they would be coming back BFJ would be coming back, I believe, on the 14th to discuss what has been heard up to this point, to refine the comprehensive plan, anything dealing with the text amendments, and as well as to talk about the DGEIS as well.
Yeah, that was our plan, Trustee. That the idea was you would not have any resolutions before you. We would need to, once you close the hearing.
Right. I understand that. I'm just trying to look at time frame to be fair to the public, that if we, I'm in favor of closing it and keeping the public comment open.
Right.
And then moving forward, and you guys would still be in front of us next week.
Yes, that would be perfect timing, and we would only be in front of you, as Stuart said, to discuss things with you and to get direction from you. That's all. You would not have any resolutions on adoption or that kind of thing until it.
Right. No, I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm good with that. I don't know what everybody else says.
Is the comprehensive plan an up or down vote after the conversations? So this goes back and forth until, I guess in essence, the board has not actually given a public opinion of what it thinks about all the chapters. A couple of us have been involved in the plan. That's not quite the same as saying that, this is the part where we hear the public. We then go back and forth, give our opinions, possibly make some changes. Is the whole comprehensive plan an up and down vote at some point, or is it done, or is there an opportunity to do it in different ways?
No, it's an go ahead, Jaime, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if I may. The goal right now is to finalize the comments from the public, from the planning board, and from the county planning board. I think that, there are members of the Board of Trustees that have provided some comments up to now. But the very next phase after those, we finalize the public comment period, the trustees at that point should be putting in the final touches on something that that you would like to pass. And so we presume that there will be some changes based off of the comments and based off of expected comments from trustees. At that point, once those comments are integrated, I think the goal is to get it in a place where at least the majority of the trustees would vote in favor. So yes, there is an opportunity to make the modifications that, based off of your experience of this process, need to be made. And we're about to enter that phase as soon as the public comment period ends.
Right, but I believe if I'm understanding the mayor correctly, are we voting on this as a package deal, or are we going to break this down and vote on chapters?
No, you would vote on the comprehensive plan as a package deal.
That's
I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
Right. The reason I was actually asking is if we had more questions, say, et cetera, but we're also right back from a big holiday season. We have a lot of families with kids. People are just coming back now. So I would propose that for me, I'm ready to close because people didn't show up. However, I want to keep the public engagement part via emails open a little bit longer than the 12th, unless that causes problems for you guys to start gelling the whole piece together. Because I do want to give people time to sort of get back with their kids in school and things opening up. And I don't see a downside to keeping the public comment part of all of this open, unless you tell me, Frank, that if we do that, then you can't put your next pieces together because you're still waiting on public comments. That was the second part. So Bob was right, but the second part was about this, whether we can close the public hearing but keep the public comment part open.
So Mayor,
I think you
Frank,
can
before,
definitely. Oh,
Frank,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry, I apologize. Before you answer that question, so just keep in mind that that's one of the reasons why I had asked Stuart in regards to the planning board because we are still waiting for their feedback, I want to say. So whatever we come up with, we need to hear back from the planning board, which as the Stuart made mention that they're going to be working on it for at least another, I want to say, being generous, 2 weeks. Correct,
Yeah.
Stuart?
Yeah.
At least 2 more weeks. So we cannot have, to me, we can close the public hearing and definitely keep the comments open for at least another 3 weeks until we actually hear back for what the recommendations or their feedback from the planning board gets to us. And then we can have, after that, it will be public, the letter will be public, the recommendations or the feedback from the planning board will be public. And then as a group, then we can start doing the discussions and what we're doing, and if we're taking their recommendations or not, or see something that we're not seeing right now, and what does that look like? Because the other part of this is the DGIS, correct?
I
Yes.
think Manny, oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, so ultimately the DGEIS is a draft document, and it basically analyzed the document as it was. There's going to be a final GEIS that has to be prepared based off of what the final document looks like, and so there are going to be adjustments to it.
Let me call you back.
I do think that it makes a lot of sense, as long as if there's a desire to extend the public comment period, that the Board of Trustees would just wait until that comment period is done before, starting to make the changes to it. So I think that Trustee Quesada's proposed timeline, if it is to be extended, should work that way, so that sort of the public comment period ends and then the trustees start working on what the final package would look like.
Right, so does that create a problem? Frank, you're on mute because I think somebody muted you. Frank, you're on mute. You got to unmute.
Yes,
Almost there. There we go.
I was just going to agree with Jaime and what's been said. I think you can close the hearing tonight. You can then extend the comment period so the planning board has time, maybe to take that 2 weeks that because Stuart and Jaime are writing that letter. Take that time, maybe to, whatever you decide, maybe April 20th. I hope it could be before your next, regular meeting. But what I wanted to suggest is that we meet with you in any case, Mayor, on the 14th, as we've planned, simply to give the trustees a chance to discuss what you feel, is that you might want to change in the plan, so that we get a sense of where you're going with it. I think it would be good to do that. Just we won't make any. We'll have to wait until your next legislative meeting before getting back to you on anything. But I think it would be good for us to know where, be able to talk with you for a little while.
Okay, that's next week, right?
Yeah.
I think it's actually, I saw it on the calendar actually for next week. Okay, folks, what do you all want to do? Manny, I'm going to assume you want to wait and keep the, it sounds to me like Bob is ready to close the public hearing, and I'm ready to close the public hearing part, but keep the public comments open a bit longer. I think that what you're saying, Manny, is that people will want to look also what the planning board said, which is also, a public entity in some way. And they might have comments on that. If we close the public comment, we may not benefit from that. So I'm willing to keep that open. That's the way I'm looking at it. Dana and Trustee Lopez, please.
I agree. That sounds good.
Okay. Okay. So do I have it right? Recapping, closing the public hearing tonight, extending the public comment. It sounded to me, if I did the math right, I might have gotten it wrong, 2 weeks. And we still could talk next week for input from the trustees, if that makes sense. I'll be honest with you, Frank, if during that week, the agenda is pretty heavy next week, we might say, let's wait, but I think we should keep it on so that we can leave that open for discussion. Does that make sense? Did I get that right, people? Sounds like a yes to me. I think that requires us to do what, Stuart?
You would need Mayor, it's a motion to close the public hearing and extend the public comment period until April 20.
So moved.
I need a second, folks.
Second.
Everybody have a tough day today? Nobody's seconding.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you,
Lord.
Martha.
And Martha keeps forgetting to chime in and go, hey, it's okay.
Mayor, thank you very much.
Thank you, folks. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Simon. Simon, your beard is getting longer and longer. I'm getting, it's like it's a good look here on the, and I'm saying it with good intentions. Don't take it the wrong way.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
bye now.
Thank you all.
Thank you, folks. I
everyone.
hope I didn't leave anybody out of that. Thank you, folks. Oh, and Joe. I didn't say goodbye to Joe either, or to Jaime. Sorry about that.
So we're extending public comments to reach until April 20th,
That
correct?
is correct, Martha.
That is correct. Okay. We are at, unless I've missed this, Mayor and trustee announcements.
I can start.
Fellow trustees, Omar Lopez, I heard your voice. Please, sir.
Right on. Okay. So I want to start by acknowledging the year that has passed since the loss of your father, Mayor. Losing a parent is not easy, and so know that your community here, the trustees, all of us here, our hearts are with you and your family as you are marking this occasion. And if you and the community have not had a chance to look up Benjamin Levin, please do. He's had an incredible life, someone who at the age of 14 was fighting the Nazis, and that's where it started. It was an absolutely incredible life. And so there's a history of it you can find online. I really encourage folks to look him up because he's really inspiring.
Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah. The second is acknowledging another passing last Tuesday in Rockland County. We had a 35-year-old father, Jared Lloyd, who was a volunteer firefighter and was going into an assisted living facility that was on fire to save residents and died during that fire. His services were last weekend, and I want to first acknowledge Jared Lloyd's life and then take a moment of silence to recognize him. We in Ossining benefit from having volunteer firefighters like our colleague, trustee Bob Fritchie here, who are literally putting their lives on the line to help our community, to ensuring that we are safe. And unfortunately, sometimes folks are making the ultimate sacrifice. And so gratitude to our firefighters here in Ossining, to firefighters everywhere, but particularly volunteer firefighters in our surrounding communities. And a moment of silence, please, for Jared Lloyd. Thank you. Next. So this is a little bit shift in tone, but the legalization of cannabis that happened recently, we've had a lot of questions about it, comments, opinions. This is, although it happened rather quickly, it's something that will take some time to get enacted. And so we'll be speaking a lot more as a board about what that means here locally. The first decision we need to make is whether to opt out of having dispensaries or any other kind of businesses that have to do with cannabis here in our community. If we don't opt out, if we can opt in, then we can decide the time, place, and manner for these kinds of businesses. And in addition to a lot of other details we need to figure out, taxes and many other things. And so you're going to be hearing a lot more about it, but want to acknowledge the passing of this legislation because it's a pretty big deal for our community and for the state. Next, this is the last of two more. So we have our state senator, Elijah Reichlin-Melnick, who on his Facebook page, if you check that out, I think he's posted it in other places as well, but he has a 2-minute and 34-second video where he goes over the final New York State budget. It is a really helpful, quick video for you to watch to get educated on what it was that passed. It's more money for schools. It's more money for roads. It's a tax cut for the middle class. There are a lot of good things that are in there. And so I encourage you to check out that video. We also had some news with our Congressman, Mondier Jones, who was in our community recently, but I'll leave more of those details to others who were closer to that visit. And lastly here, this Friday, April 9th, will mark the last day for folks who are interested in joining as an alternate to the Civilian Police Complaint Review Board. There's one alternate position available. The application is open. You can go right to the village website, villageofossining.org/boards. If you're going to go straight to the page, or just hit the Get Involved button with all the hands on there. And you can submit your application. We'll be reviewing applications and then conducting interviews. It'll be myself and the CPCRB chair, Jennifer Cabrera, holding those interviews and then selecting one person to serve as an alternate on that board. That's it for me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lopez. Anyone else?
I have a couple things.
Please.
Well, it's hard to believe that a year ago, I was extremely ill with COVID. Fortunately didn't require hospitalization, but we were really beginning this bizarre journey, right? And we're still in it. Cases are still too high, but vaccines are out there. I have gotten one of the Moderna. I'm looking forward to getting the next one in a couple of weeks. So I've gone from being very sick to being almost completely vaccinated. And I do have some long-term symptoms as well, so it's not something to mess with. I would like to say that if you need to get vaccinated, there is a group called Ossining Angels. They are a group of local volunteers who are helping people book appointments for vaccines. And because it's kind of complicated, it's kind of ridiculous how complicated it is. I do notice CVS here on Highland Avenue is giving vaccines. But if you want help booking a vaccine, especially if you're older, if you're Spanish speaking, they are bilingual. Ossining Angels can help you. The best thing to do is to call 914-236-4567. Leave your name, your phone number, and the best times for them to call back, and they will help you book a vaccine appointment, which we all need to do so that we can finally get back to something resembling normal, though I'm not sure our lives will ever be completely the same. I know mine won't. The other thing I'd like to say, which is a sign of getting back to normal, is that Green Ossining is once again having its townwide Ossining Briarcliff tag sale. I'm very excited about this. Everybody knows I love a good tag sale, and I'm looking forward to getting rid of some stuff, so I'll be taking part. If you want to take part in the tag sale, it's on May 1st from 10 to 4. And if you want to sign up, you go to greenossining.org/tag sale. And they give you all sorts of marketing materials as well. So I'm looking forward to that. Social distancing and masking there will be ways in which this will be done where it is safe. So I know that the return of tag sale season means that things must be getting a little bit more normal. So those are my two things.
Manny or Bob? Or Bob, excuse me.
I have a few things. I'm not sure if Bob wants to go next.
I'll yield to you. I really don't have anything.
Okay.
Thank you,
Bob.
sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Dan. I actually was going to mention about Ossining Angels because they've been helping a lot of members in the community. They've been incredible in regards to that. They actually helped me getting an appointment, and they helped some members of my family and a lot of my neighbors as well. And yes, that is correct. This is not something simple. Whenever I try to, since I've been working from home, I try to go out at least once or twice a day just to drive around our village. One thing that I have found, I know days are getting better. Weather is getting nicer outside, but please, we're still in a pandemic. keep wearing a mask. That is very important. Even if you're being vaccinated, it's important for us to keep wearing a mask. That being said, I do have quick announcement. Trustee Lopez mentioned Congressman Mondre Jones was actually here on Monday, and it was my pleasure to actually join him and to tour some of our local businesses. And in regards to what happened last year in the PPP loans that they obtained, some of the businesses that he toured was First Village Coffee, Theater Or, Help the pharmacy up on top. I always keep forgetting. Help me out with that, Karen. Health Smart? No, it's not Health Smart.
It is Health Smart.
Yes,
It is
Health
Health
Smart.
Smart.
Right. Indeed it is.
Thank you. We were there. Also, we stopped by the Riscos. And the last stop that he made was Open Door. There was a small clip on Channel 12. It was very helpful. One of the things that him and I were talking about, and even Karen, was like some of the infrastructure that we're working on it, the stuff that he may be working on it for us as well. I know it's a big project for Open Door. But one thing that he did say to me is like, this is not the first time that he's going to be stopping by Ossining. He's going to, he's definitely going to be stopping by more often. And one of the times, we said we're going to go out for lunch. He loved the Jamaican restaurant down Main Street. So hopefully soon, we'll be able to eat outdoors there and, in all other local businesses as well. So I'm looking forward to see that. And I'm looking forward to see more of him touring our village and our community here. So, and that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob, I'm just going to give you another chance because it's highly democratic. Okay. So I just want to take a little, make a personal note here. I received a couple of, more than a couple of emails of why Trustee Quesada was walking around with the congressman and why wasn't I there. I actually thought the emails were very nice. Somebody else read them and said, these people are saying that you should have had the time to do that. The truth is that I am a lover of democracy. I have traveled during my early 20s to a lot of third world nations where democracy doesn't exist. There are no police departments. There are no judges. It's not like you look for the courthouse or police, but they don't exist. And I lived in a few of those places for a while. I am a lover of democracy, and I believe that every member on this board is equal. And I believe that when you watch members of these boards do the announcements, even though it does take us a few more minutes, you should really sort of be impressed with the passion they each have, and that this is a team of people, all of whom have a passion for both democracy and an equal ability to sort of carry the torch when somebody visits our community. Trustee Quesada happens to live right in downtown. He and I have spent many hours talking about his immigration journey and mine, and I love spreading all this stuff around. I could have been here with the congressman. I work full time. I chose to be somewhere else at that moment because I think when I spoke on the weekend with Trustee Quesada, with Deputy Mayor Quesada, that it was great for him to have the opportunity to go to small businesses. And next time it'll be some other trustee. I don't believe that any individual in this community is more important than others. The mayor doesn't need to be at everything. There are 5 people on this board. They are super involved in so many things. We're going to take turns. We're going to do it as a team. I consider it a team, and I am very cognizant, and I have been called many names in my life. Naive has never been one of them. There will be times when we will run against one another. I get that, but I don't care. I've said this to each person on this gallery that's watching. There is no one here that runs this village. A team of people run this village, and they're all very passionate. That doesn't mean we all agree on everything. I called the village manager on the weekend. Mondaire Jones was actually supposed to be here Saturday. He ended up changing the plans. He had things to do. He visited some sites. We were asked not to publicize in advance because they didn't want 25 politicians to show up, just to be clear about that. We're also in the middle of a pandemic. People are still getting sick from the pandemic. So I want to be very clear that everybody here is running the village on behalf of the people that voted for us. So that was sort of, and I feel really honored to be on this group. I've been with other teams, if you will, and other colleagues, and it sometimes is less friendly than others, but I'm honored to be a part of this group that runs the village. I wanted to take the moment. I said something like this because really, I do want to take a moment. It's a sort of a weird night, but I do want to take a moment for this, that we do need to say farewell to a member of our community, Neil Wolf, who was part of the Bob's Army and Navy store since really June of 1946, if you can believe it. Originally owned Neil's was originally owned by his mom, dad, Anita and Robert, Bob Wolf. Bob has been in various locations through the years. Bob's is the name of the store, just to be clear, including Mount Kisco, White Plains. But it's been at 159 Main Street in the village of Ossining since 1973. Bob's, the store, has been around for almost 75 years. It is very sad when someone like Neil Wolf passes away. It's a tremendous loss to the community. I have to say that my husband actually loves that kind of a store where you go in and buy a pair of jeans, Levi jeans, and a pair of boots. Yes, you can buy them all online, but he loves going into these sort of local stores. And this is really an institution. So our prayers go out to the family. I do want to say that tomorrow at approximately 12:15, if you want to say your last goodbye, there will be a funeral procession in front of Bob's Army and Navy store. Again, 159 Main Street, in case you miss it, across from Art Square. I know that at least one trustee is going to be there. Others will most likely be there. And so our condolences to the family. I just don't have it in me for one more moment of silence. It feels so heavy at this point, but I know that this is heartfelt from really all of us in the community. I wanted to, I'm sorry, did I hear somebody say something?
Yeah, just so you know, we held a moment of silence for Mr. Wolf at the very beginning of the meeting before you were here. So
even better.
Yeah. So
Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I had actually spoken to Manny, but I just didn't know if you guys got around to that. Sorry about that. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. So it's been one of those evenings. So those are some of the points. I was going to mention a lot of other things that have already been mentioned. I would also recommend a little bit on a personal note, but not really. The Ossining Town Equity Task Force is co-sponsoring a bunch of things. I try to put it into my mayor update, but if you want to be in the book reading on Sunday, April 25th, I believe, at 4 p.m. It's on Zoom. It's in my update. You need to read the book Cast Now. C-A-S-T-E. The author will be speaking. She's supposed to be super interesting. I only know that because my daughter couldn't believe that she's going to be here and she will be joining us. And I rarely get my daughter to say that she wants to do something with me. So it's got to be great. The book's available at the library if you want to do it. Highly recommended. We live in a great community. This is a great way for the community to come together, and I'm very thankful we have Zoom because it allows a huge convenience for people to participate in things like this. That's it for my announcements. I'm just trying to see if I made some notes for myself on my iPhone before attending this. I think we're good. Thank you, and we are ready to move on.
Okay, I just wanted to give not my own quick announcement, but my brother actually was able to sign up to get a vaccine today by just going on the Westchester Department of Health website. They keep updating every minute and people keep canceling. So if you know you have availability, you can actually get one for the next day, but you just got to keep checking constantly.
Yep. Thank you. I appreciate that, Martha.
Martha.
And yay. One more person getting vaccinated. Yay.
He actually woke up at midnight the day that it opened. It didn't open. He was only able to sign up, I think, around 10 in the morning, and he got one in Binghamton, but that wasn't until May 1st. And then we found out today that you can just continuously keep checking for the
Yeah.
Westchester Community College. You can sign up.
Right. And Westchester's doing a good job. The Bronx is doing, I mean, New York's it's now it's moving. It's moving at speed.
Yeah.
So mayor and trustees announcements are done. Administrative reports, please.
Village Manager Karen DeTore.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. So a lot of stuff going on, and as Trustee Deputy Mayor Casada said, we were had the pleasure of entertaining and taking Congressman Mondaire Jones around to our many businesses. It was good to have him here, and it does lead us into talking about ways that we're looking for additional resources and how federal and state funding will help the village. We're very busy this week and over the next couple months. We're in high grant mode. One of the grants that we will be submitting is a grant that's come out of the federal government. It is the Community Project Funding Initiative, which is a new initiative for fiscal year 2022, and it will allow members of Congress to request direct funding for projects that benefit the communities in their district. So we will be requesting funding from the congressman for the 17th district and here in Ossining, and that would we were actually able to show him our project, and as you know, we are conducting a study on Route 9 and a road diet that will work to calm traffic, provide additional parking, and improve walkability and connectivity in our community, particularly through our business districts. As you saw, we have an upper business district on Croton Avenue and a lower business district on Main Street, separated by 4 lanes of traffic that are kind of challenging. So we will be applying for funding to implement that study. And that would be the paving and striping of the road, working with the DOT. So we were excited to actually get to show him our vision. He stood on the corner of Broad Avenue and Highland Avenue. I'm sorry, Broadway and Highland Avenue, and we were able to show him firsthand what difference we can make with that project. We're also working on some CDBG, Community Development Block Grant funding for this year that's specific to COVID, things that are specific to the pandemic and helping relieve the stress for the community, address issues that have arisen because of the pandemic. So we're doing a joint grant application with the town of Ossining, and we're asking for equipment and different things that we can use to facilitate outdoor entertainment in our parks this year. So some of it would be, and outdoor dining as well. So the barriers that we're using to create parklets, which we'll be talking about later, more picnic benches and things for our parks and Market Square so that people can enjoy outdoor eating and patronize our restaurants, as well as theater setups, so we can do outdoor movies. So we have the inflatable screens and sound systems. So instead of just having one night of movies in the park, we can spread it out and maybe have multiple things going on at the same time and more events throughout the summer, so we can relieve crowds and congestions in the park themselves while actually creating more activities for people to do with their families, particularly now that the weather's warmer, things are starting to open up, but we still need to be safe. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to have a successful grant application with the town for those things that will really help us have a much more enjoyable summer. We are also working on other community development block grants funding. We'll be telling you more about that over the coming months. As now more funding opportunities are opening up, we will keep the village apprised of what we're doing to make sure that we're bringing all the resources we can to bear for here in Ossining. We did we're in the process of completing a cyber security audit conducted by Homeland Security, which was essentially an in-kind grant that we applied for, and were able to get their services. So they're wrapping up a Department of Homeland Security is wrapping up a audit of our cybersecurity, and we will be presenting you with the findings of that in the coming weeks. We are about to receive the 80 trees that we've got for our urban forestry grant. So they'll be ready for planting in Nelson Park and Nelson Sitting Park. So we're excited about that. And we got approval to commence work at 200 Main Street for a grant that we received last year for remediation of that building. And we will be working, we'll be completing a review process that will allow us to retain an environmental consultant who will conduct more testing and prepare specs for the restoration and remediation of the building. So lots of good things going on thanks to grant funding and the hard work of all the staff who's involved in making sure that we can create successful applications and then execute against them successfully as well. Another partner that we have, we're always looking for things that are making us greener, more sustainable, more energy efficient. And we work with Sustainable Westchester often, and we are meeting with them on a regular basis, again, to bring more resources to the community that will really make sure that we're reducing our carbon footprint while saving money and making the world a much better place. So with that, I'd like to introduce Lauren Bose of Sustainable Westchester. And Lauren, thank you for being with us tonight.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me. So we're going to do just a quick update about the Energy Smart Homes Ossining Briarcliff program that we started, gosh, a couple of months ago now and are really moving and grooving on. So this actually I think is my first presentation to this board, so I thought it would be helpful to bring some context around what we're talking about. So I'm going to share my screen. Just let me know. Do you see like the cover slide?
Yes.
Okay, good stuff. Okay, so I think that you probably are familiar with Sustainable Westchester's presentation overview when the Westchester Power Team comes to present to you about the annual updates and things. So I will skip by this, but if anyone is looking for information throughout the county and how they can make their lives more sustainable or information about how to make their municipality more sustainable, we can certainly help with that. So moving right along. Let's see, why won't it move to the next one? Well, that'll do it. So today we're going to be talking about Energy Smart Homes, and I'm also going to briefly touch upon the Grid Rewards program and a community solar program that we're also offering as well. And just as a reminder for people that aren't familiar with Sustainable Westchester, we are a non-for-profit consortium of Westchester County governments trying to facilitate effective collaboration to result in sustainability initiatives and cutting-edge innovation. So our partnership for the Energy Smart Homes campaign includes the town and village of Ossining, as well as the village of Briarcliff and our two wonderful sustainability groups, Green Ossining and the Briarcliff Sustainability Committee. And the program is funded via a grant from NYSERDA, the New York State Energy and Research Development Authority, that Sustainable Westchester had responded to a few years ago. So our Energy Smart Homes Westchester program is here to help homeowners and some renters make their homes more energy efficient. We have a homeowner hotline number where people can call and get advice about which technology may be best for their house when it comes to clean heating and cooling, or how they can make their home more energy efficient with insulation and air sealing. So we offer a list of recommended contractors, but sometimes people like to call the office first or email with us so they can figure out which way might be the best pathway for them. So certainly we're here to help. We have applications for residential and commercial buildings as well. And why are we doing this? Well, we know that 32% of all the greenhouse gas emissions from New York State are coming from our buildings. And almost 75% of the energy used in a typical New York State home is for heating and cooling. And I know probably after the long, cold winter that we had, we're also thankful that spring is coming, but probably a reason there is because everyone's sick of paying high energy bills. Who wants to deal with scheduling oil deliveries or that dry air in the wintertime, or even the sound of your furnace turning on and off constantly the whole winter? So if any of these descriptions or scenarios are making you cringe, certainly thinking about home energy efficiency and clean heating and cooling can help get away from those tricky topics. And the solutions that I'm talking about are spelled out here on this slide. So home energy efficiency, I have a few slides. We're going to step through what that means and what programs and incentives are available. And then we'll quickly touch upon these 3 types of heat pumps: air source, ground source, and a heat pump hot water heater. So I had mentioned that Sustainable Westchester has a partner list of contractors, and our partners, or the volunteers in Ossining and Briarcliff, worked hard at the beginning of the campaign to review the list of contractors that we have and to narrow it down to who would be best fit to serve Ossining and Briarcliff. So the volunteers engaged in a really thorough contractor vetting process, and these are the 6 that they selected for the campaign. The contractors provide different technologies that varies between contractors. Some of them do it all, and some specialize in certain topics. So home energy efficiency, we start with this because really every house could benefit from having a home energy assessment to diagnose how energy is being used and wasted in your home. And the benefits of adding insulation in your home or air sealing your home are immediately more comfortable. You're cooler in the summer, warmer in the winter. The house can become more quiet, and also, the best part, reduced energy bills. So there are different programs that the state NYSERDA offers for people with different income levels. So an average income earner could use this home energy efficiency program called the Comfort Home Pilot, which offers rebates between $500 and $4,000. And we'll move through all of these things pretty quickly, but if you are intrigued by anything, feel free to fill out the form on the Sustainable Westchester website or give us a call. I'll drop all that info in the chat. Or actually, there is no chat. So I guess you'll have to just go to the Sustainable Westchester website and navigate to Energy Smart Homes, and we can certainly connect you with all of this information as well. But I wanted to bring some information about the Assisted Home Performance with Energy Star program. This is also about home energy efficiency, but due to COVID-19, NYSERDA has increased the income limitations to serve more people. So if you know someone that is a family of 4 and they are earning less than $136,000 a year, for their gross household income, they can tap into a discount of 50% off up to $5,000. And that can help to pay for a heat pump, installation, an upgraded system. So it's definitely worth taking a look at. And really, when we talk about assisted home performance, I usually say people that qualify for the enhanced star property tax exemption usually qualify for that. The Empower program serves people that are receiving HEAP or SNAP benefits, and this can get a homeowner or a renter or an apartment dweller up to $10,000 in free energy upgrades in their home, including the same things I mentioned from the other programs, but in addition, also low flow shower heads, potentially a new refrigerator, and even heat pumps. And the heat pump adder program right now is on top of the $10,000 worth of free energy upgrades. So some significant savings here for people to really know about. And we offer assistance in English and Spanish for all of the programs. So in English, you'll call the number and you'll get me. In Spanish, press 2, you'll get Carmen. And then we have support from Cornell Cooperative Extension that can help someone apply to the programs in Espanol. So moving right along, not to take up too much time because I know this meeting's going late, just a brief note that heat pumps are around us already. An air source heat pump you may be familiar with looks like this. It's a white box. It sits high up on the wall, and they're 2 to 3 more times efficient at heating a home than a typical electric system is. So there are rebates from Con Ed to do an air source heat pump. There's applications that can do just one room or a whole house. It's up to you for what you need. Ground source heat pumps are good for people that have ducts in their home or interested in installing ducts to gain central air conditioning. Ground source heat pumps are a great and efficient way to heat and cool your home and to also gain a little bit of hot water heating. I have some slides here, but I'm just rushing through them. And if you're interested in learning more, we do have some webinars coming up. And the heat pump hot water heater, you know, these have to be, people are thinking about replacing their hot water heaters more often than the whole house heating system. So the heat pump hot water heater could be a great solution. There's a $1,000 rebate on that from Con Ed right now, and they are much more efficient at the standard hot water heaters. So that's just there as an idea. And just to make this presentation a little bit longer, I brought some slides about 2 additional campaigns that we folded into our Energy Smart Homes offerings. And these 2 campaigns also connect to a Clean Energy Communities application that the town and the village filed. So just to spend 1 second talking about the Clean Energy Communities application. Are you all familiar with Clean Energy Communities? Okay, I don't know if Anila has come to present before here. Okay, so Clean Energy Communities is a wonderful way to spur competition between the municipalities to complete high impact action items. And the piece that we're going to be talking about today, the Clean Energy Communities, so many acronyms and words that are starting with C, but basically what this boils down to is the village is doing 3 community campaigns. We're doing 1 for demand response, 1 for clean heating and cooling, and 1 for community solar. If we get 10 people in each category to do the work, if it's getting a heat pump, if it's signing up for community solar, or signing up to participate in demand response, it's $5,000 to the municipality. So that could be $15,000 if we get these 10 signups for each. So that we talked about Energy Smart Homes. We're working on tracking that. We don't have a completed project just yet, but I think we're getting pretty close. It'll be harder to get the signups for clean heating and cooling because it's a construction project. So it's a bigger job, but demand response is just an easy sign up. So let me just go through these slides quickly so you have the information. So demand response is a way that we can, as residents, lower our energy usage when the grid is most stressed out. And this is it's a pilot program, it's the first of its kind. Big buildings are signed up with Con Ed to reduce their usage on really hot summertime days, but now we can do this as residents too. And the purpose of grid rewards is because when there's the most stress on the grid in the summer, there's the most energy demand. Con Ed has to turn on what they call peaker plants, which are the most dirty, polluting plants. So instead of going down the path of turning on the peaker plants, Con Ed is incentivizing us to reduce our usage. So by participating in the Grid Rewards program, you sign up to participate in demand response events, and then it's your choice if you'd like to participate in the events when they happen over the summer. And then at the end of the summer, you get paid from Con Ed by participating. So for example, people can save an average of $200 over the summer by participating in the events. And what that looks like is you'll get a notification from the app that will say the demand response event is starting. And during that time, you're going to do what you can to lower your usage. So you're not running the dishwasher, you're not doing the laundry, you're turning your thermostat up a few degrees. So that's kind of how this works. And certainly we can have Michelle Delafontaine from Sustainable Westchester come back to talk more about grid rewards. But because the deadline to sign up is April 31st, we just wanted to fit this into the presentation today. And I only have 1 slide about community solar because I hope that Claire Kokoska from Sustainable Westchester will come to present about community solar because it's so exciting. We have Mary Knoll as a community solar site, which is its home is in Ossining. So people can save 10% by signing up with the community solar program. Apartment dwellers, renters, homeowners, anyone qualifies as long as you don't have a solar installation of your own at your house. So that is 2 more things. We have some events coming up. So on April 22nd, we have a lunch and learn event that's going to be from 12 o'clock to 12:45, reviewing all the programs that we just ran through, but in more detail. And then the other event is on May 12th. We're going to be doing an event that's all in Spanish from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. And I hope that maybe you all can help us to promote these events. So that's the presentation. I know you've been seeing those emails from me. I've been emailing you all when we have these events. So now it's just a little bit more info. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Lauren. Does anybody have any questions for Lauren? Okay.
All right.
Lauren, thank you so much. We so enjoy and value our partnership with Sustainable Westchester.
Good, we do too. And the mask, where the mask was on the bank building, we're going to have an Energy Smart Home banner in the next few days. Yes, behind Maddie for an example. So keep your eye out for that. And if you have any constituents in mind that you want to send our way to have a consultation, please do keep us in mind.
Absolutely.
Okay, bye.
Great. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Thanks.
So that concludes the segment right now.
Yeah, I don't have a question, but sorry, I muted it. I wasn't quick enough clicking over here. Lauren, is she still on? She left.
Lauren is gone.
Lauren is gone. Okay. Bob, I would recommend that at some point, Maddie and Karen, but I think mostly Maddie have been going to the meetings with Lauren, Sustainable Westchester, Briarcliff, Town of Ossining. I was going to a while, but it really is something that the village staff has been amazing with, and we are members of municipality. But Bob, I would suggest that you have a conversation with Maddie at some point in the future. There is no rush. One of my hopes is that some of the firehouses might be eligible under the community part that she had mentioned that we will hear more about at some point. That is something new in Westchester. There's an opportunity for solar panels. There might be an opportunity for green roofs, which is not their thing. They're about energy. But the way we deal with our roofs on the firehouses might be worth a conversation as we green our village and lower emissions. That since you're so familiar with every single firehouse and what's going on there, just putting it up there for you to think about. No rush, but something to think about that Maddie might be helpful with, and bringing that into the conversation once some of these events are done with. And I know Maddie's working on a few environmentally conscious lowering emission projects for Ossining. So just thought I'd put it out there for you.
That makes sense. There's other prime buildings throughout the village that are prime suspects too.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But I always look to you because you know every corner of every firehouse. So I appreciate it.
Almost every corner.
Okay, I appreciate it if you could help us out with that.
Okay, no problem.
And also, thank you, Mayor. We, Lauren mentioned climate smart communities and clean energy communities. That is a goal of ours for 2021, is to get a foothold in both of those programs and start earning some points. It's a long time. We've been doing a lot of these activities for a while, just not documenting them. So we're ready.
We're there.
I want to apologize. We also have Adam Markovitz from the Historic Preservation Committee here tonight. So I'm going to be turning this over to Adam to give his report from the Historic Preservation Committee. Thank you, Adam.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Okay, how's that look, folks? Good.
Lovely.
Okay, good. Good evening. First, I just want to thank the board for inviting me here this evening to provide some updates on the work of the HPC. And I sincerely want to thank each and every one of you, trustees, mayor, village manager, all the support staff for leading our community through these extraordinarily difficult times. I really do appreciate it. So, Trustee Quezada and Trustee White are very familiar with the HPC, having been former members, but Trustee Lopez, good evening. I don't think we've met, and Trustee Fritchie, we haven't met. Mayor Levin, I think we've met in passing. I'm going to provide some background first before providing some updates, just so you know a little bit more, in case you don't already, about what the HPC is all about. It's a 7-member land use board. Right now we're down to 5 members. So Village Manager DeTore, I suppose we'll be in touch about getting two more members on in the coming weeks. Our duties include recommending the designation of landmarks to the Board of Trustees, to hearing applications for certificates of appropriateness for exterior changes that affect landmark buildings or affect districts. And very importantly, something I'm particularly concerned with is developing public education programs to increase public awareness of the value of historic preservation. These are extraordinary times, and I quipped at one of our first meetings after the onset of the pandemic that most of us were far more concerned with self-preservation than historic preservation. And these are life and death days that we're making our way through with lots of uncertainty. There's been a great awakening, a reawakening to issues of social and racial justice, and historic preservation, by comparison, may not seem all that important. Certainly it was not at the top of my mind over the last year, and I'm the chair. But it's important as we get back to a new normal. And I've tried to put into words why it's so important. But my experience in talking to people about preservation work is either you really get it or you really don't. And then there's a group in the middle that maybe just doesn't think about it. And I think part of the work of the HPC going forward is to try to reach those people and raise public awareness of the importance of historic preservation. Among the reasons preservation is important is contributing to the richness of our built environment, providing a tangible and visual connection to our past, and encouraging engagement with our history. As a community, we have to decide, do we want structures like this? This is the Brandreth Pill Factory in 2009. Or do we really not care at all? Obviously, I joined the HPC because I care, and I want to make sure that the buildings that are historically and architecturally significant in our village remain standing. To the end of public education, we sponsored a high school essay and video contest this year, or at the end of 2020. We rolled it out in collaboration with the high school. In the fall, we gave students 2 months to either write an essay or submit a video about a building of historic and architectural significance, and to describe its history, its architecture, why it's important to you, and why preserving it's important. The winner was an 11th grader named Emily Wang. She wrote an essay about this building pictured here. I think this is early 20th century. It's the Crotonville School. Here's a more modern photograph. And as the winner of the contest, Emily received a $500 cash prize, courtesy of the contest sponsor, J. Phillip Real Estate. Philip Veranda is one of the members of the HPC, and his company underwrote the contest. And I hope that we can make the contest an annual event moving forward. At the beginning of 2020, before the pandemic started, we had explored the prospect of landmarking a building that's currently the clubhouse of a condominium development called Hudson Point. The building is the former residence of this man pictured here, Warden Lewis Laws. This is Warden Laws on the cover of Time magazine in 1929. Warden Laws really shifted the paradigm for incarceration, the philosophy of incarceration in this country. He shifted it from a punishment model to a rehabilitation model. And even though he oversaw over 300 executions at Sing Sing, he was a staunch abolitionist. He did not believe the death penalty was right. This is Warden Laws in front of his house. This is Warden Laws again in front of his house with inmates. At one point, there were over 20 inmates that actually staffed the house. So firm a believer was he in rehabilitation. This is a modern photograph of the building. We held information sessions. We met with the Condominium Association Board. But ultimately, there was a lot of resistance to the idea of landmarking this building, which is unfortunate. The good news is that it does not appear to be, at imminent risk of having exterior renovations done or demolition or anything like that. So that's the good news. I think it's going to have to wait another day for us to attempt landmarking it. And my philosophy has been and continues to be that a landmarking should be undertaken, if at all possible, with property owner buy-in rather than over the objections of property owners. Now a success story from last year. As I mentioned, the HPC here's applications for exterior renovations to properties in historic districts. The Sparta Residential District is one of our historic districts. The Main Street District is, of course, the other. This is 64 Revolutionary Road. It was purchased by an agency that is going to operate the home as a group home for adults with developmental disabilities. This is the before picture. And I'll point out a few features. You can see this is not a terrific photograph. There's a central chimney, which is very typical of early 20th century structures like this one. There are two skylights. That's not typical of early 20th century structures. There's a closed-in front porch. That's something that seemed to be widespread in the 1950s and 60s. And there's a brick veneer curtain below that. And I think you'll be impressed by the after. There it is. You can see we preserved, in working with the property owner in coming up with a plan or helping work on a plan with him that was historically appropriate and respectful of the other properties in the historic district. We preserved the chimney, the skylights were eliminated, the brick veneer was removed and stucco was put in its place. The enclosed porch was removed, and now we have a porch with 4 posts and spindle railings. So that is, I regard as a success story, not just in terms of the ultimate outcome of the aesthetics, but also the speed with which we were able to get it done. The adult residents of the home needed to move in on a tight timeline, and HPC worked flexibly and swiftly with the property owner to move this project through as expeditiously as possible. And I think everyone involved was happy with the outcome, both the speed and the look of it. And finally, moving forward in 2021, something that we've been discussing at the last few meetings this year, and we'll be discussing moving forward, is helping the First Baptist Church, pictured here, in obtaining grant funding to rehabilitate the steeple. Here's a picture that I took of the church over the summer. Here's a close-up of the steeple. It's in very rough shape. With every stormy day, I think about the First Baptist Church and the continuing deterioration of this steeple. This is an iconic building that sits at the heart of our village. It's been at the heart of our village for 150 years. This steeple is one of the first things people coming into the village from the north and the south on Highland Avenue see. And it doesn't reflect well on our village. And, it's a shame that the building is deteriorating so much. So we're working with the congregants to obtain grant funding that will hopefully, at the very least, preserve steeple. There are other issues as well, but this is our focus for now. With that, I've concluded my presentation. And if there's time, I'd be happy to take any questions. If not, I'm happy to yield to the rest of the agenda. Thank you again.
Thank you. I do want to just chime in. First of all, thank you, Adam. Great presentation. I appreciate your time and the detail. I learned a lot from this, so I thank you for that. I wanted to just mention, as sort of a prelude, if you will, we've been asking the village manager and staff and really the chairs of a number of our committees to be sort of calendared in during the year, and this is part of that, so that the public has a better sense of what our volunteer groups do all year round. Many of them meet once a month, some meet others, as you heard from Adam Markowitz today. I don't think I'm saying your last name correctly. I'm sorry, Markowitz. That you know, it's more than just meeting once a month and recommending changes or approving things. They are far beyond that. They're helping some community members, all sorts of great stuff. But this is really part of an education system for the community, for the dozen or so committees that are filled with the volunteers who really work diligently and passionately to support, as I said earlier in this evening, it takes a village to run a village. And so I appreciate all the volunteers in your organization, and I appreciate the presentation. We'll see, as we get through the year, we will see more and more presentations from more of our committees, and hopefully chairs of committees might also be able to watch what other chairs are talking about, because they sometimes, I get a sense that they're a little bit in silos, and this allows them to also see what some of the other volunteers across the community do. So let me open it up for any questions or comments. My whole thing is thank you. Appreciate your time. Really appreciate all the work you do. I am sure that if there's any needs that you have, that you all know when the budget season is, and you all know who the village manager is. And if there are any questions that regarding budgets or needs moving forward, that you will be bringing it to her attention as well. May I open it up for commentary from my fellow trustees?
I can go. I can start. Thank you, Adam, for the presentation. I'm new to you and to the work of the Historic Preservation Commission, so I appreciate the information here. My big question is about how you've seen HPC change over time and the role you see HPC taking in the future. Right now, we're working on the comprehensive plan and ensuring that we're getting as many perspectives as possible on what some of our big commitments are going to be over the course of the next decade is really important. I'm curious about how a body like HPC plays into the long-term vision of the village.
Thanks, Trustee Lopez. And I was glad to hear tonight that the public comment period has been extended for another 3 weeks. I have not, in total honesty, had a chance to review the comprehensive plan. I'm told that chapters 8 and 9 pertain specifically to historic preservation matters. I look forward to reading those chapters, and I plan on offering comments on the draft comprehensive plan. As for HPC's role in the future, Ossining's history, I think, is going to be central to Ossining's development in the future. And I think the HPC is going to be instrumental in safeguarding our village's architectural and historic treasures, for broadcasting and disseminating information about the significance of Sing Sing Prison and people like Lewis Laws. When you think about the village of Ossining and its symbols, they're symbols of its history. On the village website, it's the picture of Main Street. We're talking about a new village seal with the double arches. So Ossining's history and its architectural history, its built environment, is going to be critical to keeping Ossining an interesting place, a place that's going to draw young people, diverse populations going forward. And I see HPC as being an important part of that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? I'm seeing none.
If I may.
Sorry. I'm
Go
seeing
ahead,
two.
Dana.
I'm
Yeah,
not
no,
looking
no,
carefully enough. Hold on. I'm
Yeah,
just
I
not.
have,
I was actually shocked that Ms. White did not add in something. Go ahead, Dana.
How could I not? Thanks, Adam. Good to see you. I was on the commission for several years, and I think that it's done remarkable work in helping to maintain the history that we have left. And I think that we need to really recognize the importance of that work. And it is under excellent stewardship under Adam and the other members of the board, including our village historian, Joyce Cole. So thank you, Adam. Thanks for your work. And I, of course, will always be in your corner. So, thanks.
You get one vote right up front.
Sir. I'm gonna piggyback in what Dana just said. Adam, thank you to you and to all the members on HPC for all the tremendous work that you guys have done through the years as a commission and as a board. Look forward to helping you at some point of time with try to educate the rest of the community, because I think that's an important key. I think we talked about that at the end of last year, and how do we do that, and how do we engage other people. And you guys did that already with an essay competition, which was awesome to see and to hear from different high school members and what they wrote about, and the passion that they had. So yes, thank you for everything. I look forward to please read the comprehensive plan itself. There are definitely some sections in there I have brought up. We have brief conversations in regards to that, especially for the downtown portion and what does that look like. So I look forward to read your comments on or suggestions on that one. But thanks, Adam, for all the hard work that you guys do for us.
We can't let that go without at least mentioning the Deputy Mayor Quesada. Is your title one of the founding members of the HPC, or?
I'm not really a founding member, but I was definitely part when the HPC became a voting board within itself. Before it was just an advisory board prior to me. So when I was there, I was part of the change itself, I want to say. So yes.
Great.
Thank you, Mayor.
I get a kick out of that. That's part of history too, actually, the human part. It's not just about buildings, as I learned. It's not about buildings, it's about all the people that move around in and out of the buildings. So thank you, sir. And Village Manager, I think it's back to you.
It is back to me, but that does conclude my portion. So my Corporation Council, I believe, is next up.
Thank you, Karen. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, members of the board. A brief legal notice from your Corporation Council. There have been many changes in the law recently, but one actually just went into effect on April 1st, and that deals specifically with landlords and tenants. So it's something I believe that the Landlord Tenant Council is aware of, but it's important is that effective April 1st, leases, and this includes actually people going into condominiums or co-ops, must include what's called a reasonable accommodation notice. And it has to provide that each tenant must be made aware that they can request reasonable accommodations in their place. That can include common areas, that can include work within their unit, which the tenant may do and then would have to basically put back. And if the landlord does not do or does not make those accommodations, which would be considered reasonable, a complaint can be made. But it's important to note, it is a required notice now as part of a lease agreement. So the LTRC will certainly, I believe they're certainly aware of this, but it's just something to be talked about and to be made known of. Tonight, we're going to be calling for a public hearing with regard to proposed local law 2 of 2021, which will waive the residency requirements for the position of code enforcement officer in the village. Currently, it is waived with regard to building inspector and assistant building inspector. There is also a referral to the planning board of a proposed text amendment that relates to proposed local law 5 of 2021, which deals with notice of various land use board decisions. There are then, going further, there will be a proposed change in the fee schedule relating to the, what we're calling parklets, which is essentially the ability to have these sort of little dining areas within parking spaces. And there will be a discussion with regard to a proposed agreement or renewal of the agreement with IFCA. So that's on tonight. There is a zoning board meeting this coming Tuesday, and 2 weeks after that will be the next planning board meeting. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. And now we have, next is Chief Kevin Sylvester.
Good evening. First thing I was going to talk about is Penal Law Section 222 is the cannabis law. I just wanted to clarify something that Trustee Lopez had said earlier. He'd mentioned that things were going to take some time to get enacted. That relates to dispensaries and laws of that sort. Cannabis is currently legal in our community. So effective March 31st, cannabis is legal for public use everywhere that cigarette smoking is permitted. Cannot smoke inside of public buildings and inside of multi-dwelling houses, schools, churches, things like that. However, as we've seen on patrol so far, people are taking full advantage of being able to smoke in public. So people are permitted to possess up to 3 ounces of cannabis in a public place. They can also smoke in a public place. Our officers have been instructed to treat that according to the law as it now stands. That's legal. Earlier tonight, I delivered to the board 2 reports. One, a first quarter statistical report from the police department, and second, first quarter arrests. These provide demographic information on enforcement activities for our department in accordance with recommendations. Recommendation number 12 of the Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. To date this year, we've had 7,125 calls for service, 269 car stops, which have resulted in 227 tickets issued. I will submit to you that not every traffic stop and not every ticket is related to a traffic stop, and that some of them come from car accidents or other enforcement activities not related to traffic stops. Probably more importantly, and what people are wondering about is demographics. The 73 arrests that we effected in the first quarter of 2021, only 69 of them are included in this report, 1 having been sealed, 3 of them being entities that were issued. Arrest reports are associated with from alcoholic beverage control law. So we don't include those in the demographics as they're entities and not people. But of the 69 people that were arrested that we can disclose information for, 41 of them being white, Hispanic, or Latinx, 12 of them being white, non-Hispanic, non-Latinx, 12 of them being black, non-Hispanic, non-Latinx, 3 being black, Hispanic, Latinx, or 1 being Asian. So those percentages break down to about 59% white Hispanic, 17% for white non-Hispanic, 17% for black non-Hispanic, which are generally in the ballpark of our demographics, although it is nearly impossible to determine what the composition of our community is, because the census doesn't match the school district, doesn't match New York State, doesn't match anything. So we're sort of taking a composite of those numbers. The most recent census has not released their data, so it's a little bit of estimation. Notably, 88% of our arrests are male, only 12% female, and probably more important, 80% of these arrests resulted from complaints from the community and not from officers out looking for people. So contained in that report is also a list of every single arrest we've made, including the law section, law type, the level of offense, the age, race, gender of every single defendant, including their arrest status, whether they were released on an appearance ticket or held custodially to see a judge, and how those events were initiated. So the recommendation was to deliver those to the board and that they should be published. So the board has those now and can place those on the website as they see fit. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Does anybody have any questions? I mean, I have a question. I just want to, okay. So how do you, from where do you get the information of whether someone is African-American or Latino, et cetera? Like, how does that get determined?
If it's an arrest, we ask them as part of the booking process. If they are unwilling to communicate with us, our officers are instructed to make their best educational guess. I will add that none of this is available as a single report from our records management system. It is an antiquated system that's been unsupported for a number of years. And as I'd mentioned in budget last year, I'll be coming back for a very, very large purchase in the budget for next year to replace this, since our software is apt to die at any moment. So this has been culled by hand. We had to sort through each and every report individually in order to get this data.
And are you planning to do that quarterly? Is that the path forward?
That's what I've done now. I'll continue doing that unless the board has some other instruction.
Okay. And did you do this last year, or is this sort of year one?
This is the first quarter that I've done this. I had a larger study that I was conducting. I'm far too busy to get tied up in an annual study at this point that wasn't a required item. So I'll do this to fulfill the obligation and go on to the rest of the book that we've got to get working on.
Okay, so this will be the first one. So this is going to start giving us some more information. Great. Okay. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Looking around, not seeing. Okay.
Sorry, Mayor.
Oh, please.
Yeah, I have one piece. So one of the most common questions that I've heard about cannabis is cannabis and impaired driving. If you could just speak to that, Chief.
It's been illegal all along. It's going to continue to be illegal. It's incredibly difficult to detect. If what's going on in California and Colorado are any indication, we're going to expect increased accidents with very little ability to enforce those. There is no field test to detect for use of marijuana, or at least not for impairment. So everybody's kind of guessing at this point.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. And we talk about Ossining, but if the public hasn't been aware, because this happened last week, it's New York state law. This is not just Ossining. Ossining is within New York state, and that's why the chief is talking about the new law. It is done at the state level by our state representatives. It's been discussed at the state level for, God, it's got to be more than 6 or 7 years at this point, and that was passed about a week or so ago by the governor and by the houses. So thank you, and we will be hearing more about this, and we will be getting more public input, and there is work to be done. I had put in my mayor's update, there is going to be work to be done. We have to look at our smoking laws, as the chief has mentioned. We have to look at our public space. There are a bunch of different things, but as Trustee Lopez mentioned, one key municipality act is whether to opt in or opt out, and the time frame for that is by the end of this year. Okay, we are ready to move forward. Organizational announcements. I was waiting for you, Martha, but sorry.
Organizational announcement. Is there anybody here from the public who would like to make an organizational announcement? Going once, going twice. Okay. Going on to public comments on the agenda items. Is there anybody here who would like to address the board on any of the resolutions in the agenda tonight? I know Trustee Quesada had talked also about the village seal. Is this the moment when they can talk about that too? Would you like to wait until later on?
I'm going to refer that to the mayor, since that's not a topic of our agenda of items.
It's not on here.
It's not
It's
not a resolution.
So
It's just
it's not part of the resolution. So yes, we can. That will be at the end of the public meeting.
If somebody wants to talk about it. For now, it's public comments on agenda items.
Is there
I'm
anybody?
not seeing hands.
No. Okay.
Maddie, hands?
I just saw a hand.
Oh, there it is.
Eric Garrity. Yep.
Okay.
Can you confirm how long they get, Stuart, so that I can?
They get 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Okay, no problem. Eric Garrity, I'm going to bring you over. If you want to, I'll bring you over if you can introduce yourself, and if you can unmute, please.
Eric Garrity, co-owner of Sing Sing Kill Brewery.
Yeah, you can begin.
All right. I'm just confused about last week's public hearing on Local Law 3. I was under the impression that the board would be voting tonight on Local Law 3 because there was an urgency to lock in a plan for the sidewalk cafe protocol in order for the businesses to have the appropriate time to adapt. And in order to transition from sidewalk seating to curb lane seating, there's a considerable amount of planning, materials, and labor involved, which takes time to allocate the financing, purchasing, and execute that plan. So am I correct that tonight we're dedicating this executive session entirely to just deciding on how much money the village is looking to extract from the local small businesses?
Sorry, I'm on mute. I actually thought that we did a TBD in filling in the amount, Stuart, and I'm looking through this very
Mayor, if
long
I might,
agenda. Yeah,
just
please.
to be clear.
I'm looking through it. Go
No,
ahead.
What is on tonight, and putting aside Mr. Garrity's hyperbole for a moment, what is on for tonight is simply the decision of the board as to a change in the fee schedule relating to the parklets. Next week will be the public hearing on proposed local law 3, which is revising the local law relating to sidewalk cafes and adding the outdoor dining and sidewalk sales. So next week is the public hearing on the local law. Tonight is the discussion solely relating to the fee to be charged. That is because we wanted to have the fee in place promptly, because we know that there are inquiries from various owners who are interested in using this new outdoor dining system. So that's the discussion tonight. Next week is the public hearing on the local law.
Okay. So that answers the question. Is there?
So when would we vote? After the public hearing?
Again, Trustee White, there'll be a public hearing next week. My guess is that the vote would be on the 21st for the local law. Tonight would be a vote with regard to the fee.
So just to
different
make
things.
clear, it's two separate issues. The fee is not contained in the law, but we wanted to make sure the fee is really, to Mr. Garrity's point, the most important consideration for the businesses. So because we had to have a local law, a public hearing to accommodate a local law, but the fee we're doing a little bit differently than we usually do, because we were sensitive to the needs of the business community and wanted to make sure that the fee was set in enough time for the businesses to plan, as Mr. Garrity had said.
Okay, thank you. So that is what we're discussing. Anyone else? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands. Maddie, you seeing anything?
No
All right,
hands.
let's get this going to the next topic.
Okay, Village Board Resolutions, approval of minutes, March 17th, 2021. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of the March 17th, 2021 regular meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, sorry.
It's okay. Approval of minutes, March 24th, 2021. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of the March 24th, 2021 special meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Comments?
No? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approval of voucher detail, April 7th, 2021. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the voucher detail report dated April 7th, 2021 in the amount of $940,853.99. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Comment?
Okay,
Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Call for public hearing, proposed local law 2, 2021 titled, a local law amending chapter 32, article 4, officers and employees waiver residency requirements for Director of Code Enforcement, Building Inspector, and Assistant Building Inspectors of the Village of Ossining Code. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby calls for a public hearing to take place at 7:30 p.m. on April 21st, 2021, to consider proposed local law 2/2021 titled A Local Law Amending Chapter 32, Article 4, Officers and Employees waiver residency requirements for Director of Code Enforcement, Building Inspector, and Assistant Building Inspectors of the Village of Ossining Code. And be it further resolved that as a result of the continuing state of emergency and as a result of the executive orders issued by the governor, including Executive Orders 202.1 and 202.97, the public hearing will be conducted remotely via Zoom. And be it further resolved that for those individuals who want to watch and or participate in the public hearing remotely, the following contact information is provided. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments?
Yes, if I may.
Sure.
I know this is not related to this, but I do want to thank Personnel Director Pollard in regards to one of the concerns that I had last week in a work session. So I'm going to ask the board again, since that you guys read that email, at some point in time, I would like to add the code enforcement Spanish portion of this into our items of legislation, so we can then have that opportunity if there's someone on the list that we can actually canvass the Spanish list for code enforcement. So that's the only thing that I'm going to ask. Again, it's not part of this, but I would like to ask the board to put that at some point in a work session so we can discuss that. Thank you, Mayor.
Got it. We will make sure we'll bring Paul into loop. I'm sure village manager heard it loud and clear. Martha?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Referral of proposed zoning text amendments to the planning board, whereas that pursuant to section 270-59 of the Village of Ossining Code, the zoning code chapter 270 may be amended, supplemented, or repealed from time to time by the village board on its own motion. And whereas section 270-59 further states, prior to the public hearing specified in subsection C, every proposed amendment shall be referred by the village board to the planning board for report, which shall be rendered within 62 days of such referral. And whereas the Village Board of Trustees has received from the Corporation Council proposed local law 5/2021, which proposed local law proposes text amendments to chapter 270, more specifically section 270-49 procedure, and adding a new article 14, additional notifications, procedures before land use boards, a copy which proposed local law is made a part of this resolution. Now therefore be resolved that pursuant to section 270-59 of the Village of Ossining Code, the Board of Trustees refers to the village's planning board the aforementioned proposed local law 5/2021 for consideration. And be it further resolved that the village's planning board shall issue its report on the proposed text changes to the zoning code within 62 days of the referral, and that pursuant to section 270-59A1, the planning board shall make inquiry and determination concerning the following items. A, whether such change is consistent with the aims and principles embodied in the law as to the particular districts concerned. B, which areas, land uses, buildings, and establishments in the village will be directly affected by such change and in what way they will be affected. C, the indirect implications of such change and its effect of other regulations. D, whether such proposed amendment is consistent with the aims of the comprehensive plan of the village and the local waterfront revitalization program, LWRP. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Fire Department Tax Exemptions 2022, resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the following fireman's tax exemptions for the 2022 year. Do I have a motion?
I will abstain from this vote.
Okay.
So move.
Second.
Comments?
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Sorry?
One,
Did I hear?
one abstention, please.
Yeah,
No, I think she got it.
Okay.
yeah, I got it, thank you. Moving on to continuing business of the board, resolution A, adoption of change to fee schedule, whereas village management has recommended a change to the fee schedule effective May 1st, 2021. Now therefore be resolved that the Village of Ossining's fee schedule is amended effective May 1st, 2021 as follows: outdoor dining, use of village parking spaces to be determined per month per parking space, and be it further resolved, all of the fees shall continue in effect until and unless changed by resolution of the Board of Trustees. Do I have a motion?
So move.
I need a second.
Second.
And comments.
On the question, is this, we're approving, maybe I didn't hear it right.
What you're going to do, Trustee Fritchie, is now you'll have a discussion
Okay.
on what the fee will be. We'll then revise the resolution to put the actual number in.
Right.
Thank you.
This is about what is, so let me propose this. We've looked at, the staff has looked at other communities. We have heard some feedback. We have gotten emails, feedback via emails, individual conversations that people reached out to us. I think this is down to really what the number is, if you will, in plain English. So, Karen, do you want to propose something, or do you want us to propose? I mean, we just sort of need to bring this to closure.
So we reviewed a lot of options. We sent the board, many communities are discussing this, and we know that the restaurant owners represented by Mr. Garrity had their option too. The range right now, is anywhere from at the high end for dense communities with significant amount of foot traffic, could be $100 per space per month. Then many of the other communities, Dobbs Ferry started at, I think they started at $250 per space, and they ended up at $50 per space per month. And then more recently, I sent you today some information. Tarrytown decided not to do it and just do 4. The village would fund 4 outdoor, close the street outdoor dining events. And then we had something from Larchmont too, which I'm just looking up. It was a little bit more along the lines, it was more similar to what Mr. Garrity was recommending, where it was based on a fee, permit fee, that was higher than what we charge, and then a cost based on square footage. So we're doing it a little bit differently. They didn't have necessary maximums on their space, but they were looking, a lot of the communities are literally having these same discussions. So a lot of them haven't really established it either, but most of them do seem to be going towards a trend that provides some level of fee or payment to make sure that the village is being, or the municipality is being responsible with, and not running into the challenge of a gift of public funds, but also recognizing the relatively narrow margins that restaurants work under and the financial distress that they've been put under through the pandemic.
Karen, could you remind us what the Ossining Business Alliance, the businesses downtown, what was their idea?
Their idea was to, we had originally recommended to waive the permit fee, which we've been doing all through the pandemic. Their recommendation was to take what the permit fee is, which is $75, and apply that for each space being used. We're recommending 2 spaces. I think most restaurants will need 2 spaces to make this worthwhile. So it would be a total of $150 for the season.
The season being 6 months, right?
The season would be May 1st through October 31st.
Right. Okay.
Well, I think that sounds fair. I mean, it's they're paying, I do think we have to be mindful that, we have to, I think, continue to support our businesses and do what we can to help them succeed. So, I'm for the idea they offered.
Remember that the last conversation was that what it doesn't do is pay for the revenue that the public is losing because the space is being taken, which was estimated 160 or something like that.
Yeah, that's for the spots that are being used, basically 100% of the time. It was between like 160, 180 per spot, but that's full usage of the spot. There's somebody always, parked there.
Right. So, and we're talking about a handful, and has the chamber chimed in on this at all?
No, they have not. I do not believe that any of the businesses that are looking at parklets are members of the chamber.
Okay, so I just realized that I don't remember any of the feedback coming from them. Okay, anybody have an idea? I mean, I do, but I think we just need to, if we wait till we get the information from all the communities, we're never going to be done with this. So on one hand, you want to see what everybody's doing. On the other hand, everybody's looking. On the third hand, if you have three hands, every community is different. Their width of their sidewalks are different. Some restaurants are already with parking. Some, like White Plains, years ago have created an entire downtown area that they can close off. We do not have that. Anytime we close something off, we're killing other businesses. We have many other businesses that need parking, especially on the weekends. Not so much in the evenings, but certainly on the weekends. So there is a balancing act here that has to occur. That's what makes every municipality just a bit different. And we have to take that into account. That's why we have local government. So what are the thoughts? I feel like Dana has already given us her thought, a little bit different than it was last week. So I appreciate your thoughtfulness, Dana. Anybody else?
I'll go next. I agree with Dana.
Okay, anybody else?
I still stand with my comments from last week, but but due to the recommendations of the businesses, some of the local businesses that be using this space, I will go with their recommendation. So I'll be in favor of Dana and Omar on this.
Okay, so you're saying $150 per 6 months, for the entire 6 months. Are we still eliminating the fees that we're supposed to be charging? Is that part of the package, Karen? I see Maddie
That
going like
was,
this.
yes. I mean, yes.
That's what the proposal was, yes.
That's what the proposal was. Okay. Bob, any commentary there? It's 3 out of 5, and 3 people said something. So it becomes not really a vote because 3 people agreed on something, but that doesn't mean you don't have an opinion.
No, I have an opinion, and I mean, I'm fine with it. I just, you know, I'm presuming you said these are Yodocs, right? The Jersey barriers that you're getting, Karen?
Okay, so you just exceeded my technical knowledge of Jersey barriers. I will tell you. So I don't know what the technical.
They're the plastic. They're the plastic.
Yeah, they're
orange
the
and
ones
white.
that will be filled with sand or water.
Right, water.
Like
Okay.
water, yeah.
And I don't have a problem with it. I would like to see the consortium of these businesses maybe make it a little more attractive if they can. You know, lights, covered of Jersey barriers, or I mean, that's up to them. I mean, I just think it would be more of a draw, and they stay there. Now, my other question is, it's from May till October. What happens in October?
October, they come down. They really cannot be there during snow season. So, you know, this is specific to the pandemic. Right now we've extended the local law in the event that the emergency order that the governor has would be lifted, because it doesn't really make sense to do this for 1 month, given the investment that the village and the restaurants will be making. But subsequent to that, we would have to reevaluate based on where we are with the pandemic and where we are in terms of needing outdoor dining and other issues. So, but we would reevaluate at that point.
Let's remember that the taxpayers paid for all of these.
No, I understand that.
You know, so we will need to use it for other things as well at some point, for sure. They're not just for this.
That is correct. We did get a brochure from or guidelines from Dobbs Ferry that are pretty detailed on how these guidelines for tricking out these barriers so that they can be made more attractive. And you know, that's also something that the restaurants are eager to do. So we'll be getting that out to them too. There's certain requirements that have to be followed for safety reasons and to maintain the integrity of the barriers as safety barriers, but there's a lot of leeway to make them much more attractive.
Okay, but they have to be maintained and clean like anything else, just like the sidewalks do, because one person's opinion of tricking out, to use the colloquialism already presented here, is another's person really ugliness. So we really have a
We do have some
responsibility.
guidelines for that.
Yes,
So.
because we've been through this conversation with other brick and mortar. What one person thinks is beautiful, another person thinks is really not so beautiful. Okay.
So these are guidelines to trick out your Yodoc, right?
Yeah, now that I know what a Yodoc is, yes.
So that would be the headline for next Tuesday's mayor's update.
You got to Google it. Yodoc tricking out.
Okay,
Okay.
well, we're inventing a whole new thing here. So
I'm sure there's a TikTok video.
Yes,
am.
I'm sure there will be.
We
And
always
there is
learn a lot at these meetings. That is for sure.
Useful stuff, useful stuff. And I'm sure the state of Jersey is very excited to have something named after it of such magnitude. So we're done. Yes, Stuart?
Well, I just want to be clear. It's $150 for 2 spaces for the entire period between May 1 and October 31. Am I correct?
Yeah, it doesn't actually matter whether it's 1 space or 2. It's $150 for the space, maximum 2 spaces. Because I know you like to be precise.
Well, it's it's $75. The proposal,
Thank
if I
you.
remember correctly, and was from the Restaurant Association group, was $75, which is the same as our permit fee for each space. So I think 1 space is probably going to be small to make it worthwhile. So
Okay, that's fine. I actually thought everybody was getting 2 spaces. We're just so the public is aware before we get into like we're losing money here. We appreciate the support, but there are other businesses, et cetera, et cetera. We appreciate all that. There's been a lot of conversation about this. If you've been following us, the idea here is to be supportive, balanced by doing the right thing for folks. You know, we live and learn about pricing, all the communities. I'm sure people will be watching this, going to meetings tomorrow and saying, oh, Ossining came up with this amount. That's in our study now. So I think we're good to go so that we can let the restaurants sort of make decisions. My understanding is we're talking about single digits here, 5 to 7 participants, from what I understand, when we're done with all of this.
Yep.
Okay.
So and again, I think that it's just important to note that the feedback we got from all the communities that we spoke to is that this really is a balance, because on the one hand, one could argue the village, or municipality is potentially losing revenue or will be losing revenue from parking. However, having places to go is really important, and there we saw in Ossining a high demand and interest in eating outdoors, and people really like that. Even as things open up, I think that will continue. People tend to like to eat outdoors. We have a very pretty Main Street area, so it'll be nice. So we have not really gotten, we have been using the spaces over the last year, and we really haven't gotten pushback from the community or other stores, because people who come to restaurants tend to shop too. So there really is this delicate balance, and everybody's just trying to look at it from as many angles as possible and try to make it an all boats rise scenario. But nobody, like the mayor said, every community is different. Everybody's approaching it different ways, and the interest is, from the municipal perspective, is just to make sure, given the different constituencies involved, that everyone is everybody's needs are addressed and satisfied.
And I'm looking to be outdoors not only for eating, but for walking, running, biking, and having cups of coffee in Market Square and on Saturdays. So this is all good stuff. Appreciate all the extra picnic benches that have been put all over the place for people to enjoy the outdoors. Going to say it again, we're still in a pandemic. People are still, actually, when I just got a text that somebody I know just got the COVID, tested positive because her kid came home with it. So it's still there, even though we want it to be gone already. Thank you all. Stuart, I think we're ready for you to move this forward.
Just as amended, the resolution as amended will now be $75 per space for the period of May 1 through October 31. But as amended, the board can vote.
Okay, maximum 2 spaces.
Great. That will be in there as well, of course.
That would be important.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Great.
And Martha, I'll give you the revised resolution tomorrow, but as so amended, the board can vote.
Okay, as amended, do I have a vote? We still keep the old motion, correct?
Yes, so it can be,
Okay.
you can just call for the vote.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, moving on to the second topic, B, village seal survey results.
Who's doing this? I don't see a
I can
person's
go.
name.
I can go, I guess.
No. Is somebody presenting this, or what are we doing?
No, maybe, well,
I believe Jamie was going to tell
with
us something.
Jamie, I think she's still here, is she?
Yeah,
Oh,
she's
yes. So Jamie, I know you sent us an email. Do you want to recap some of the stuff and then we can piggyback? Again, I don't think this is a voting discussion. It's more like an update. And my suggestion will be to put this item back in a work session so we can continue this. But that will be, so Jamie, if you want to take it away from that, please.
I just need I didn't know that I was presenting.
No,
so
wait
I
a second. Guys, this is getting really late. If it's a work session, Manny, what would be the problem?
I
Just
will
moving this to the work.
I will prefer do this in a work session. We have the results.
Here's your update. The survey is over. We'll discuss it in a work session.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, it's running late. Not that I
Yep.
regret anything that we've done this evening, but let's move this
Yeah,
into a work
I'm
session
okay
where it
with that.
belongs.
Yes, correct. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. We now are going into Martha. New business of the board.
Okay, new business of the board. Authorizing the village manager to sign a proposal letter with IFCA Housing Network. Resolved that the village manager is authorized to sign the February 22nd, 2021 proposal from IFCA Housing Network, 138 Spring Street, Ossining, New York, 10562, to continue administering the rental component of the village's affordable housing program for 2021. Do I have a motion?
Bob, I think you were saying something, but you're on mute.
So move.
I need a second.
Okay.
Comments? And is this where we are hearing from Ms. Jackie Shaw of IFCA?
Yes, so tonight we have IFCA Executive Director Jackie Shaw and their Chief Finance Officer Letitia Jones to give us some background. We've been running this program, the village has been running this program with IFCA since the inception of its affordable housing set-aside program. The purpose of the program is to, IFCA is contracted by the village to lease up qualify the tenants and do the annual recertifications for the tenants who reside in all of the affordable set-aside apartments with the exception of Avalon, which does theirs separately. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Jackie Shaw so she can give a little bit of background on the program and take you through the elements of the contract that we have with them so that we can have a resolution to approve their contract for 2021.
If I may just chime in, we were, as Jackie Shaw knows, because she's also a council person in our town of Ossining as well. Welcome Ms. Jones. Just to put a little perspective, we normally don't do this. We normally don't follow this process. But IFCA is highly regarded, if you will, I would say a member of our community, does really great work. I suggested to Village Manager Tori that we do hear from Jackie Shaw, and I'm glad Ms. Jones is here too, because I think that sometimes we forget that the public may not be as aware as we think they are of the role that IFCA plays. Anybody can look them up on the website, but it's nice to see how it fits with the village. So we're going a little bit off what we normally do from a process point of view, but we also didn't want to wait another week or 2 or 3, and we thought this was a good opportunity for the public record to hear more about IFCA because of the work that we do. So I appreciate you both making the time to spend some time with us and to share your knowledge, your data, and how the contract works with the village and with IFCA. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see you all. It's been a while, actually, since I've seen everyone. I know it's late, but stay with us. We'll try to make this as quick and painless as possible. I'm going to do a little bit of the background, and then Letitia is kind of going to walk us through the contract. And then if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. To the mayor's point, I'll do a little background on IFCA. IFCA was incorporated in 1968 as a nonprofit organization, kind of doing community service types of projects. In 1972, they bought their first property and renovated it and opened it to working families at below market rent. And that's kind of how IFCA got started in the housing. Once they did that, they realized that housing was really where they wanted to be. Now at this time, IFCA owns 15 properties, 92 units. 14 of those properties are in Ossining, and that comprises about 86 units. As a neighborhood preservation organization, IFCA has been a leading force in ownership, rehabilitation, and management of affordable workforce housing in the village of Ossining. So some history on how we got into the whole set-aside contract with the village. In the early 2000s, the village board had concerns about housing prices that were too expensive for people of modest means, low income and moderate income families and residents. This really affected young families and seniors who were retiring from the workforce. They were being priced out of the community, and this is something the village was beginning to see. The board also had some concerns about the shortage of affordable housing for people who work in retail, restaurants, and at our schools, trying to keep local people local. It was getting harder for those folks to stay here and stay within the community. Lastly, the board was concerned about affordable units that were coming to their affordability terms. So they may stay affordable, but they may not, because the terms of their agreements were coming to an end. So the village board at that time foresaw that there would be an affordable housing crisis, and they chose to act. So in 2006, the Village of Ossining Board of Trustees adopted the Village of Ossining Affordable Housing Policy Statement. The policy statement and the rules codified in Chapter 62 of the Village Code create the foundation of the village's affordable housing program. The comprehensive plan, adopted in 2009, also discussed and identified the need for affordable housing in Ossining. The adopted affordable housing policy and comprehensive plan resulted in the creation of a Village of Ossining affordable housing law. So this law directed the planning board and the zoning boards to consider, as part of their review process, the need for affordable housing units by requiring the inclusion of affordable housing units by mandating a 10% set aside in each new development proposal of 6 units or more. The law also stipulated that the village would appoint an independent third-party entity to help administer the program. The benefits of having a third party to run this affordable set-aside for the village was that you could choose a third party that had experience and expertise in affordable housing, which a lot of complexities, I can tell you that. It ensures that the applicants have their information confidentially kept and privately held. And also for things in terms of lottery selections and wait lists, it would be out of the village's purview. So there would be no, the village would be insulated from anyone saying there was any kind of inequity or there was favoritism, because it would be out of the village's hands. It would be in a third party's hands. So clearly the third party that was chosen was IFCA, and we've had a relationship with the village since that time. We work with several landlords and property owners to manage their set-asides for the village, and we have a collaborative process with the village. And we review the contract annually. As the mayor said, this is really the first time we're doing it at a meeting, but it's a contract that we review annually, and we do quarterly reports. Letitia, I don't know if you want to jump in and you want to take us through the contract?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Just a brief walkthrough of the contract. This is something that we consider very important, given the set aside. IFCA does a variety of processes with the village. The first step in the process is to get information from the village in regards to new properties that are coming online, the units that are coming online, after which we get in touch with the landlords to get more information about amenities that are offered. We try to make it so that it's affordable to the people who are moving into these units. And in order to keep it affordable, we go through a variety of eligibility. So we go through and we review the applicant for income to make sure that they income qualify. We do a background check. We do a landlord verification, because we want to make sure that the people that we are putting into these units are going to be responsible with the rent and be responsible tenants. So we don't have any problems going in the future. And we haven't had any. A part of our eligibility, as I stated, is our background check. We do criminal landlord credit. We also fill vacancies as they come up. So sometimes we have people who just want to leave or they no longer qualify. And then we have the units become available. We only do this for buildings that we're allowed to. Like Karen stated, Avalon, they do their own. We simply take the applications and give them out to people who need them, but Avalon does its own eligibility. We also do what we call the annual tenant income certification, where we review the tenant's income to make sure that they still qualify for the program, and then we take it from there. That's basically how the program works. It does involve a lot of work. Getting a person into a unit could take anywhere from 2 weeks to a month, depending on the time frame that we get all the information back, how fast the tenant moves. We do go through pay stubs and all this verification. So it is a lot of work, but we do it because we want to make sure that the program is still up and running. And we want to make sure that it's fair to everyone, so no one feels like they're being looked over. So we keep a running wait list as well. So while the units may not be available, we try to make sure that we're still getting applications so that when one does come available, we can put somebody qualified in the units. Any questions?
Not for me. Anybody else, folks? Not seeing. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Thank you, Jackie and Letitia, for joining us. Wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how the pandemic has changed or impacted this at all, whether folks are, the need has gone up or down, the kind of effort you've had to go through to be able to speak with folks. Just speak to the impact the pandemic has had on the work, please.
I'll jump in first, and then Letitia, if you want to continue. The need has, I would say, exploded. I've lost counts, or the last count of our wait list. Again, we have 86 units in Ossining, and we have a wait list that's well over 200 households looking for a unit. We have people calling all the time, and we just don't have the capacity. So I would say it's gone up a lot. I know people who have moved in. We've had some vacancies, at least in the IF properties, because people have had to move in with family members or have to move out of the state or have had to find some other means. So it's been a very rough time for our tenants, but we've been working very closely with them as we see them like missing a month or they're calling us, getting into trouble. We've been working, and this is something I give Letitia mostly the credit for. We've been working very closely with tenants to give them options on how to pay their rent, working on payment plans, working on budgeting, those kinds of things to try to get them whole. I know from stimulus checks, a lot of people have been able to get current, and we're trying to help them to stay current. So again, budgeting and the financial counseling that Letitia and her team do is vital right now. It's more important than I think than it's ever been. Letitia, you want to jump in?
To this point, while we have a lot of people who are staying in place because they can't afford to move anyplace else, or they're having payment issues, so we're working with them. So while we see the demand for affordable housing going up, the supply is not increasing. So we have people who are working, but they cannot afford any place to live. So that's something that we're constantly working on at IFCA, and we hope to be able to increase that supply over time.
Thank you both. Oh, sorry, Omar. I didn't know that you were not done.
No, sorry, just one last piece. This information that you're giving is really helpful in terms of exactly what you spoke about, but curious if there's anything else that we can do on the board to be helpful.
I think I'm really excited about the DPW site. Honestly, the potential for having that many affordable units, I think, is going to be incredible. So that's something we're looking forward to, but just projects like that, just encouraging the set aside, and we've been working with Jaime and Stuart to make this, to streamline the process for the set aside, and they've been really helpful. So it's been great to have a team and know that if there is an issue that we can go to Jaime and Stuart, have a quick meeting and, hammer things out. So they've been very helpful. So I want to give kudos to them. Thank you both. So just the village staff has been really helpful when we've had a need. So that's been great. So much more than that, I really can't think of anything.
Thank you. And thank you for popping in, Jaime, for the hello.
Well, it shows that he's listening. Let's be honest.
I'm listening. I am listening. In case y'all thought I wasn't listening.
That's cool. Well, thank you both very much. Nice to see both of you. Yes, I haven't seen you, Jackie, in quite a while. Like, doors will be open soon. I hope everyone is well with the family. And I hope the kids, at least 12 of them, will be our next engineer at some point. Don't tell Paul I said that, but, So you get Ossining schools, coming engineers. These are all good
Go
things.
Ossining.
Yep, all good stuff. All good stuff. Thank you all. Thank you, Ms. Jones, for coming. And
thank you for having us.
Our pleasure. We're ready to move to the vote, I think.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, moving on to visitor recognition. Is there anybody here from the public who would like to address the board on any issue not related to the agenda, but of relevance to the common good of the village?
I see a hand up. Maddie, are you seeing it, or Jamie?
Yes, we do. It's Miss Sylvester, so I'm going to bring her over if you want to hang tight. Okay, Miss Sylvester, if you wouldn't mind, just for the group here, just name who you are and your relationship to the Village of Ossining. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Susan Sylvester. I'm a little bit confused because you just said not related to the agenda, but I wanted to speak on section 8B, which is the village seal survey, which is on the agenda. So I'm a little confused because you said not related to the agenda.
It's not something that we're discussing as part of the agenda.
Oh, it's listed as section 8B of your agenda. So I will continue, I suppose, and talk about it. So I live on Butler Place in Ossining, and I'm a longtime resident. And there are two main points that I would like to bring up. One is comments on the survey itself about the village seal. And the second is about the reasoning why we're considering the redesign of the seal. I took the survey, but I found it to be quite biased. At first, it asks if we think the seal should be redesigned. I answered no to that question, and it was then followed by a request for a brief explanation why. After that, it showed some pictures, and it said, which would you think best depicts Ossining? And then the next question was, how many images should be on the new seal? Should there be one, or should there be multiple images with a picture showing the options? And all the questions were required to be answered in order to submit a response and to submit the survey. So I was extremely frustrated because I answered no to that first question. And so it's as though you're saying, well, I know you don't want a new seal, but if you did want a new seal, what would you like the picture to be and how many pictures would you like? So you said in your cover letter that you wanted to hear from us and that our input was valuable, but it doesn't feel that way when my first answer of no was ignored and I still had to answer the other questions in order just to have my no counted. So I don't know, it sounds maybe you already made up your mind that we're having a new design and that you just wanted people's input as far as what it would look like. I don't know, because I really feel that it should have just ended at the no for me. And then you stated in your letter the reasoning why you were considering the new design, and that you had said that the village seal was introduced at a time when Indians were popular symbols for schools and other institutions, and that as attitudes and times evolve, it's time to reevaluate. But this seal has much more meaning than a football team or a sports team picking an Indian as their image. this is about the history of Ossining and the derivation of the name that we have in the village. And the history is also stated on the website about how the Sing Sing Indians were part of the Mohegan tribe. In having an Indian head on our seal, we're honoring the indigenous people of this area, and we're acknowledging and honoring our history. So I'm not sure if we want to ignore our history of the Indians, or is it in vogue to abolish the images of Indians? And on Facebook, I saw a comment saying that it should be abolished because it's not a proper picture of the tribe. And so if that's the reasoning, then why not fix it by getting a proper picture of what that tribe, what their image would be? I looked up the Mohegan tribe, and they're actually located in Ucasville, Connecticut. And perhaps if we don't want to be insulting to the indigenous people, we should ask them if they are offended by it and what their view is on taking their image off of our seal, because it's been there for over 70 years. And maybe they would be insulted by the removal, or maybe they would think that it's appropriate that we remove it. And I wonder if anyone has reached out to them, because, or are we just going to have non-Indigenous people? Are we just going to act on the behalf of the Indigenous people and just decide for them what they think? So perhaps if that's the reasoning behind changing the seal, that we should reach out to them to see what their feelings are.
Mayor, you're muted.
All good points. I appreciate the input. The results of the survey, at least the preliminary results, will be at the work session next week. The way our chart is written is the Board of Trustees makes this decision. The Board of Trustees at the end of last year, and again continued into this year, would like the public's opinions. We do the best we can with the surveys. None of them are perfect. We'll get the results next week, and we're going to discuss it, and people will have a public meeting to discuss further. The survey is one venue of people's opinions. What is clear to me, however, is that the people who are going to decide the future of the village of Ossining are the people that are involved with the village of Ossining today. There are lots of studies about Indigenous people, by Indigenous people, for Indigenous, from all over the country, but the people are going to decide what the look for the village will be the people of the village of Ossining. The survey is one tool, conversation is another tool, public meetings a tool, emails are a tool. The tool that doesn't actually work, so the people are clear in who are listening to this, is social media is not a tool. It's nice to look at social media, and all of us do, both as individuals and as elected officials. But the tools that I described are the one that we're going to collect data on and make some decisions based on that information that comes from the people who have a relationship, they work, they live, they're part of the village of Ossining. And so that's what we're going to look at and discuss, or begin to discuss when we see the results next week. And from there, we will move to more public input. So I appreciate it. Is there anybody else?
May I?
You may. Go ahead.
I just want to try and get a point of clarification if Jamie would know off the top of her head. So if you do answer that first question, no, is anything past that calculated? Or is no the answer and that's it? Because it was confusing, and I just want to know, like Ms. Sylvester said, that you had to fill everything out for your survey to count. So it's like a double-edged sword. So if the first answer is no, what happens?
Survey was set up that everything was required. That was how the board had.
It's hard to hear you, Jamie.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
The board had wanted to have all of the questions required.
Okay.
But the no's and yeses is one of the first tabulations. So when you get no, and then there's commentary after that. So there will be X number of no's and X number of yeses, which will be one of the really most important. After that, it's a lot about what people's opinions are. We may not be able to use everybody's opinion if they want 2 arches plus, you know, a cross and a star next to it. Not all these things are doable. Those start being opinions, but whether whether it's redesigned or not is the first question, and that's the first tabulation. So when you look at that and you get a majority that says no, that's going to tell us something, right? If you get a majority that says yes, and if you get about 50-50, we're going to have a lot of discussion. And that was the purpose when the survey was done. The first question has a lot of weight. After that starts being, you know, look, feel, you know, stuff like that. And then the board will also decide what of that they want to take, what they want to do. They will also have to look at renderings that translate some of those ideas, if any. If the majority say no, do not redesign, we're good with it, then that's it, right? That's it. The survey doesn't tell us what to do. The survey gives us input. We will then have to decide how, when, and where we want to do it, and how, when, and where this happens, and we'll have to vote on it after some more public input, because this is something that's been around for decades, and usually they last for decades. It doesn't have to be as long, so we understand that to change these kind of things is a big deal. It's not a nothing. And we'll see what happens. And that's how we're going to discuss it. It should not have been listed for today. It should have been as a work session for next week. It's probably my fault. I do look at these things before they're put out there. And I think I missed this one. When I looked at the full list, it was a long list. I apologize for any inconveniences caused anybody, both in the public and in the gallery today. I don't see any other hands. Shall we move on?
Mayor, can we then move to adjourn to executive session for matters of personnel regarding specific persons?
So moved.
Second.
Any conversation? I don't think so. Martha?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That's nobody. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. 10:41. We are closing this meeting. Have a good night. And the rest of us are going to the next session.